Electrifying sports talk from start to finish.
You're going wire to wire.
With Diesel and Cole.
Chris Phillips said it to us last week, Cole. He said, y'all messed up. You let Florida into the club, and Florida doing Florida things right now. Jack Caglione hits a 3-run dinger in the top of the second to take a 4-1 lead on the NC State Wolfpack in an elimination game in Omaha. Man, this first weekend of the College World Series has been like the birth of a child, right? It's been like watching a space shuttle take off. It's just been incredible, right? Just so many fantastic games, walk-offs. I think the first 3 games ended in a walk-off in Omaha. I mean, it's just absurd, the level of baseball that we're getting out of these teams in Omaha. And I'm going to argue later on in this very segment, Cole, that Major League Baseball needs to copy what college is doing and readjust their postseason play, because postseason pro baseball sucks by comparison to this. This is insane.
It doesn't have the electricity. It doesn't have the I don't want to say the nuance, but you know how like March Madness comes around and we get so excited because we just expect something crazy to happen. The MLB, while upsets do happen, I believe the format, while I've never looked at it in the same light as what you just brought up with them maybe changing the format, it doesn't provide as explosive of a format for whatever reason.
They won't change it.
No, they won't.
Because there's way too much money on the table with the format they already have.
Yeah.
But they should. Anybody's watching this knows that they should change it. I mean, there's no urgency in a 5-game series. It's just lame. It's boring compared to this. This is absolutely nuts, man. 3 walk-offs in the first 3 games. Just an epic way to start the weekend of College World Series. Friday, Cole, we had 2 games. Game 1, UNC 3, Virginia 2. North Carolina won that one in a walk-off. Game 2, Florida State, Tennessee. Tennessee won that one in a walk-off. I'm going to spend some time here, Cole. I'm going to park on this one and say Florida State got absolutely hosed
again
in that game. Like, what is it? There's just a nexus of suck around Florida State right now. You get so close to the promised land, and then something happens. Right
you know
at the
what?
very end.
I knew, Diesel, when I saw that happen the other night, I knew that, you know what, regardless of what happens this weekend, regardless of how many good games there are, this swing, this batter, this is what's going to be talked about and led with on a lot of shows, and it has been. I'm surprised it hasn't been more than it's. I'm surprised it hasn't been discussed more.
Well, it pissed me off because I picked Florida State to win the whole thing, and I'm like, no, you're going to take this away from me on a technicality in the 9th inning,
right?
No. So the situation, Cole, was 2 outs. Florida State had a 3-run lead. Tennessee first baseman Blake Burke was up to bat. He had 2 strikes. He went around. The third base umpire ruled it a check swing. Tennessee continued their 4-run rally there in the 9th and eventually walked it off to win. It was just, how do you not say that guy went around? The barrel of the bat was in front of the base.
No,
and it was in front of home plate, and it was parallel to the front of home plate. Especially, Cole, when you compare that to a swing that was called a full swing in Tennessee's second game versus North Carolina that wasn't even close.
So the problem is, like, in the moment, real speed versus slow motion. That's the issue, right? Because these umpires, when it happens in real time, the umpires do not have the speed of, the
eyeballs.
The eyeballs. They don't have the away, Diesel, to see if that was really a swing or not in real time. Yeah, they can give their best judgment call, right? Yeah. But when you look at the replay and you see the green line that goes in front of the hitter's torso, that is when you really can look and see clear as day that he wasn't just barely past. He was way past.
And I look, I understand the argument from people who say things like, I don't want every play to be stopped and scrutinized. Yeah. I mean, I hate that at the very end of college basketball games now. It's like the last 5 minutes feels like it takes 20 minutes to play. I mean, it just slows down to a crawl. But that is crucial right there. That is the odds-on favorite to win this tournament, should have lost and should be playing in an elimination game right now.
Well, the next pitch, Diesel, was a rote 2-run single to tie the game 11-11. So that's the issue, right?
Well, the problem on the field is that umpire standing behind third base doesn't even have the proper angle to be able to tell if the batter goes around anyway.
Yeah.
Right. They can't see that. The line from home plate, if you draw a line on the overlay of the field, that line, that front edge of home plate points to the dugout.
Again,
but the third base umpire, he's all the way over behind third base, sometimes standing behind the third baseman to his left. There's no way that he can see.
I'll go back to
going
this.
Around.
I'll go back to the same thing I say during football season. We allow old men from 70 yards away to look and see if a ball was across a chain or not. And then or a ball was across a line. Then we bring out chains, literally bring out chains to measure whether it's across. Look, my point is, as good as our technology is in this world in 2023, I'm not saying bats need chips and plates need buzzers and lights and all kind of crazy stuff, but we have to be able to say, look, we're going to implement this technology so that when these things happen, it's a buzzer, it's a light, it's an immediate reaction so that we're not having this happen. Because
I'm okay with the buzzer. I'm okay with a chip in the bat and a line across home plate.
Well, it's going to be something.
Yeah, even if it does, it doesn't have to be hockey where there's a light that goes off and the whole crowd loses their mind, right? It just needs to be a buzzer in the umpire's pocket. It's an aid.
Yeah.
It's an aid to the umpires, not a replacement for the umpires, because we still love the tradition, right? We still love the ability to say there's a human out there that can make a mistake. Who are these people? Who are these people who say, I would rather have somebody out there dressed as an umpire making bad calls than have a robot get it right? I can't fathom these people. They're like, oh, I'm okay with them getting it wrong sometimes, unless it's your team.
Yeah.
And then you say, oh, we got to have robot umps.
Nobody's ever
robot umps.
Anybody that ever says I'm okay with them getting it wrong sometimes, that person's lying. Like, for example, I'm not saying Madcraft's lying, but Madcraft on the stream says it's a judgment call.
It's not a judgment call.
My pushback to that, Madcraft, would be, look, a judgment call is a call where the official in basketball has, or you can use baseball, but it applies more in basketball. They have to use their best judgment to determine whether it was a foul or not. The judgment call term originally came from basketball. Them swinging a bat all the way around the plate and then having an umpire, 90 feet away at third base dictate whether he swung the bat. That's not a judgment call. It's clear black and white. That impacted the game. It definitely would have ended the game, right? Because the game would have been over. Something has to be, we have we can send people to the moon, supposedly, but we can't put a buzzer in a bat and figure out how to fix this. It should be something simple, a light, a buzzer, something.
Yeah, it should be. Moving forward, Cole, Saturday's games, Kentucky 5, NC State 4. NC State again now playing Florida in an elimination game. That score, we're in an instant replay at the moment. We'll grab that score here in just a moment. If it's still 4-1, it may be different. It looks like NC State might have just hit a home run. We'll get that here in just a second, Cole. 4-3. Florida leads NC State 4-3, bottom of the third. A&M beat Florida. All four of the first games, Cole, were one-run games.
Yep.
3 of them were walk-offs. Does it get any better than this?
No,
it doesn't
fantastic.
get any better.
It's fantastic. And low scoring in some of them compared to what we've seen in the regular season and in tournament play. You talk about Friday's games, other than the Florida State-Tennessee game being 12-11, Virginia, North Carolina, that was old-fashioned, hard-earned baseball right there, and I loved every bit of it.
Yeah, yesterday, Virginia was eliminated by Florida State 7-3. So, Florida State was mad. They were taking it out on Virginia. They're trying to get themselves back into that position, Cole, where they can go play for a national championship after they got screwed. Let's see. Yesterday, Tennessee did what Tennessee does. They smacked around North Carolina 6-1 in the head-to-head match. This is what's so crazy, Cole. We thought, okay, we got 4 ACC teams, we got 4 SEC teams in this field, right? They should play this thing relatively equal.
Yeah.
But to this point, it's 3-0 SEC.
Sure.
Over ACC. It's
wild.
The SEC is proving themselves to be the better, deeper conference.
Last night's game with North Carolina and Tennessee, before that game started, I thought about putting some kind of wager on it. I did not. But that game last night, I wanted Tennessee to win, and I thought they would win. But I did not think it would be a 5-run margin. I thought there was a very good chance North Carolina wins that game last night. But it just goes to show, as good as North Carolina is, you have to remember, Tennessee right now, from the time they played last night to the very beginning of the season, Diesel, they've only lost 12 games. Like, if you think about that, how wild it is that this Tennessee baseball team has only lost 12 times this season. They just simply don't know what losing feels like much. This is a championship team that has championship DNA.
Who's winning the current shot challenge, Cole? That is by far and away Tennessee. 8,800 shots have been purchased on Tennessee's behalf. That almost doubles the second highest, which is Texas A&M. Those cultists down at Texas A&M, 5,000 shots for them. Let's see. So here.
Tennessee spent $44,000 on Jell-O shots.
Good news. Like, a lot of this does go to charity.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if not, and you're this Rocco's bar, you have just figured out a way to make your entire annual budget in 1 week.
That's what the South Carolina bars need to do to fix the tax on the liquor law. The new liability liquor law.
Can Spartanburg County get a Rocco's to maybe fix I-85?
They might could. I
mean, I'm flat out embarrassed for the state of South Carolina. I had to drive up and down I-85 twice yesterday. I am flat out embarrassed for Spartanburg County, for South Carolina DOT, the piss poor job they've done.
Welcome to my life every day, twice a day.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Why is it taking so long? Can we get somebody on the show from the South Carolina DOT and explain that? Why is it that when you drive up and down that road, Cole, there's like 2 crews, and they're always like 15 miles apart working on 2 disconnected portions of that road, and the crew is like 4 men deep.
Yeah.
It's a crew of 4 working on a 20-mile stretch of road. Make it make sense.
It's terrible.
Make it make sense. Shocker, Virginia bringing up the rear in the shot challenge. Now, this was before they were even eliminated. They were getting their asses kicked. 1,300 shots for Virginia. I mean, you would think that the great state of Virginia could buy more than 1,400 shots.
Real quick, I wanted to bring up a definition because there's some conversation going on in the stream about it, and we brought it up with Madcraft's point earlier about it being a judgment call. The definition of a judgment call is there are no firm rules or principles that can help you make it, so you have to rely on your own judgment and instinct. Again, if you look at the instant replay, there is clear rules, Diesel. Yep. It's not a judgment call. This is not a judgment call at all. Like, if they said in baseball, we don't really know what's a strike, it's just a referee's judgment, then yeah, you can say it's a judgment. There is a clear boundary. They showed it on the replay the other night. That if you're past this line, it's plain and simple.
It's not a judgment. It's just a snap decision that the umpire got wrong.
Yeah,
because he couldn't see it. He didn't have the right angle to make that call.
So
Ricky Molinak says 1 guy working, the other 3 guys leaning on a shovel. You're right.
That's true.
You're right, Ricky. That's why it's taken 20. By the time they get that road finished, Cole, it's going to be time to repave it again.
Ricky also says SEC reigns supreme.
Mm-hmm.
JD says on the stream, it was a bad judgment call. There was one last night they actually got right. Mad says if an ump has to make a call based off of what he sees on the field on the spot, that's a judgment call. FSU could have ended that game 5 times. Boo-hoo. Y'all are missing the point, man. Like, this is
Madcraft. You fundamentally don't understand what a judgment call is. I mean, you could say yes, he had to make a judgment at that moment, but that's not what a judgment call is.
He used his judgment at the moment. You're right. He did. At the moment, he used his judgment. But a judgment call is when there are no clear rules or principles to define what the call was. And I don't know why we can't just say, okay, Diesel, if we have a close call like that, it has to be I'm not saying every check swing has to be replayed, but in a World Series game, we can't replay that? That's pitiful.
You need to. And Madcraft says, well, Florida State had other chances to end the game. No, that was their chance to end the game.
Yeah.
That right there was their chance to end the game. Sure, Florida State made some DA decisions right there, right? Like they left that pitcher in far too long, and he got absolutely pelted in the 9th inning. I don't understand how you give up 2 hits, 3 hits, and you still leave that guy in. You know, it was time to make a move and get that pitcher out of the game. Hindsight is 20/20, right? If he had thrown strikes and gotten the final out, It would have been a
but you could
brilliant
say,
decision.
well, if Florida State would have never thrown a strike over the plate that got hit, yeah, they would have won by 13 the other night.
That's like saying if I left the house 10 seconds earlier, I wouldn't have been in that car crash because my vehicle would have been in a different place in time. Right?
Yeah, it's just, look, the bottom line is we can't make that call. That we cannot make it. We have better technology. Like, we're just going to be okay with it, move on, and then it's going to happen again 3 or 4 years down the road. I mean, every sport it happens, and it's pitiful. I mean, there is no reason with the technology that we have, we can apply something to this play specifically that allows us to know within a matter of 5 to 10 seconds whether the bat crossed the plate. It's not rocket science.
I mean, why can't we put a chip on the ends of the football, right, and put an invisible barrier down the goal line? And you know for a fact if the ball crossed the goal line or not. I mean, it's absurd that we don't have this in major sports, across major sports. Again, I don't want technology to replace
No, I don't either.
the traditional element of the game. I don't want the umpires to have nothing to do but sit in a dugout or sit in a booth and watch a computer monitor. But, Cole, I want them to get it right. And eventually, you know, if we do go to robot umps, if we do go to a robot strike zone, something like that, sure, it'll slow the game down. It'll feel weird for a little while, but they'll figure it out, and they'll get better and better at it over time. But that said, Cole, Florida State has come back with a vengeance. They put a whooping on Virginia yesterday. And, hey, maybe if Florida State goes on to advance and keep playing in this College World Series, that might be the impetus that they needed. And of course, like Madcraft, he can't be objective here. He's a Miami fan. He can't be objective.
Hurricane on Seminole crime is
exactly
what that is.
Exactly. So, you know, I want to see more technology implemented in this game, but do it in a subtle way. Do it in a subtle way so that it doesn't intrude on the game.
Madcraft, I want to know what you meant. You said both of y'all have said similar things before. Are you referencing things happening, like not wanting technology to take? I don't know what you're referencing there. Yeah, I've said before that I don't want technology, like Diesel said, to take over any sport. I just think that in an instance like that, nobody, regardless of who you pull for, nobody with a right mind can watch what happened on Friday and say, yeah, Florida State, they deserve to lose. Like, they wouldn't have the ninth inning of a baseball game if only the first four. Yeah, both teams can say we had chances. That's not the point. The point is it was a terrible, terrible call.
Yeah,
and they got hosed.
And it's not like Florida State's pitcher started throwing high over the catcher's head, right? It's not like something wild and weird started to happen. This game should have been over.
Yeah,
should have been over. Florida State had a 2-run lead in the bottom of the ninth. This game should have been over. It's not like he was throwing it in the dirt. It was getting past the catcher, and runners kept advancing and kept advancing and kept advancing.
Madcraft clarifies what he was talking about. He says FSU had a chance to put that game away multiple times. Yes, but the end of the game is so important. For example, I'll give you a great example. Yesterday, guess what? Rory had a chance to put that match away in the last round yesterday multiple times. He did. But guess what Rory did at the very end? He missed one putt, well, two, but one that was critical for him to make that would have forced a playoff, but he didn't. It's not about having chances throughout the game. It's about at the end of a game, at the end of a golf round, whatever sport you're talking about, you have to, obviously as a team, individual sport, whatever it is, you have to perform at the highest level, but we can't have old blind horse back here calling that crap from 100 yards away at third base, just putting his arms out when he really has no clue because his brain, his eyes can't comprehend speed that quick when a bat's turned around in real time. You just can't comprehend it. That's my issue with it. Slow it down. Let's pause. Let's go look at it. Somebody needs to say in an instant replay situation like that in the College World Series, somebody needs to call for a review, and it didn't happen. I don't know what it's going to take, but it needs to happen. All right, Diesel, speaking of baseball, what we saw good, what we saw bad from the Atlanta Braves over the weekend. They are only 8 games back now. It was 10, so hey, maybe they're playing a little bit better. We'll talk about the Braves, what they need to do to continue to trend up next.
Now at 844 Fan Phone.
This
The Atlanta Braves won 3 games in a row, which is fascinating. That's big news right now because lately they've been struggling to win one in a row.
That's called a winning streak.
That is a winning streak, and we'll take it. Let's see if the Braves can produce a little more of it. Like we like it. We love it. We want some more of it, Atlanta Braves. They defeated the Orioles on Thursday 6-3, the Rays on Friday 7-3 Diesel, and then Saturday walloped the Rays 9-2. They did drop the Sunday night game or Sunday game. It was a day game, I believe, 6-8 against Tampa Bay. They were not able to complete the sweep. However, when you look at their schedule, okay, the Yankees, they have to go to the Yankees this weekend. That's going to be a tough out. We know that. However, they have a 3-game series starting this week against a good Detroit team. But let's be honest, the Braves are a better lineup when they're playing at their best than Detroit. They're better on paper. Unfortunately, the Braves don't play on paper right now, but you do have some favorable matchups on the way. And as we talked about last week, Diesel, speaking on if the Braves need to hit the panic button, I think that there is a good opportunity toward the end of this month as well as at the beginning of July. As I look past the Philly series, there might be some games for the Braves to gain some ground. Right now, they're 8.5 back in the NL East.
Well, I know you're going to go immediately when the show is over tomorrow. You're gonna haul down to Atlanta because it's Pride Night.
That's a terrible joke. Terrible joke.
I mean they'll have this 3-game series against Detroit. Detroit is one of those teams that's kind of hovering right there under 500. They're at 34-37 at the moment. After that, they play the Yankees, who are really good. Aaron Judge is tattooing the ball again this year. And then a 3-game series at St. Louis, and they're a 500 ball club as well. So, I mean, they got their work cut out for them. But the good news is, Cole, they're not really playing, a murderer's row schedule at the moment. They're playing a lot of teams that are sitting there right at that 500 or below mark. And so they have an opportunity here to get right.
What's so fascinating is when you look at the division, Philadelphia obviously leads the division. They're playing really good baseball. And in the National League, we all know that the Dodgers are going to be the team that when it's all said and done, they're going to be there. Somebody's going to have to go through LA. San Diego's a sneaky good team. It is interesting, though, to see that the Dodgers lost Mookie Betts over the weekend due to a hand injury. Not sure how long he'll be out, but he's their best weapon. He was the runner-up last year in the National League MVP, so they'll definitely miss him. I don't know how long of an injury that'll be, but Atlanta, like Diesel, if they can just – I don't want to say just like stay around 500 for the next month, but in reality, if they can, that's not a winner's mentality by any means. But if they can stay, let's say in the next month of baseball, if they go and play 500 baseball, they're still going to be in position to make a run at the division. The only thing that I would push back on that we heard last week, I don't know if you remember this clip of audio that I played, but there was a radio host at 680 The Fan in Atlanta, and he went on that rant, remember, about the Braves and how they were playing terrible baseball right now. Well, one of the other hosts said, look, we don't want the division. And I had a few people reach out to me after we played that audio and said, well, what kind of mentality is that to say the Braves don't want the division? We always want the division. I think that his meaning behind that was, look, you've won the division before in recent years, and it hasn't worked out for you, right? You don't want to do that every single year and just go one and done. Maybe the Braves will be better off if they are the wild card. I'm not saying never want to win the division, but I do think there's truth to the team that gets hot toward the end of the year could make a run, and the Phillies have been that team the last 3 years.
Well, we've seen the last couple of years the teams that win the division and get the bye struggle in their return to meaningful baseball. You got to get out there. You got to be playing somebody, right? It's just like we were talking about in the last segment, the do or die nature of college baseball and the pool play that they have, the double elimination. I think it makes for more compelling baseball, and I wish that's what they went to with Major League Baseball, but we see it every year where the teams that have been elite all season long, they get themselves so far in advance. And, with 20 games to go, they can just kind of shut it down and coast a little bit going into postseason play. And and it puts those teams in a hole. They lose a lot.
When you look at some numbers, Marcell Ozuna, the season that he's had, 258 at-bats, 83 hits, 15 doubles. He finds himself, Diesel, at third in the MLB behind Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. So, what's fascinating is if you would have told Braves fans before the season started, hey, look, mid-June, Marcell Ozuna is going to be third in the freaking league in hitting. You'd have thought, man, we're probably not going to have many losses on our resume, right? Because everybody else is going to be playing so well. Plus Ozuna stepping up, we're unbeatable. However, Ozuna's the only one right now. As I'm looking down this list, I want to make sure no new Braves have been added, and no, they have not. Diesel, the top 25 MLB hitting leaders as of right now, there's only one Atlanta Brave, and that's what's so surprising because the way this team just raked last year, you wouldn't expect just one to be on that list.
Yeah, I think I recall our first week on the show, I think I said, I think these Atlanta Braves are going to have 5 or 6 All-Stars.
Yeah.
Yeah, about that. I don't know
if
that's going to happen.
At least.
I don't know if it's going to happen this time around. Michael Harris has not done what we thought he was going to do. Everybody else has dropped off. Obviously, Acuna with that season-ending injury. I mean, it's been a comedy of errors over the past 30 days or so with these Atlanta Braves, and it's really kind of hard to put your finger on it, which again tells me that they have that they can turn it back on and start playing elite baseball again, just like they did. Who was it? Who brought it up in the stream? Spur Daddy brought it up in the stream. They can play just like they did in 2021. Come back and get hot down the stretch and make the wild card. I think that's the best possible situation and outcome for this team.
Texter from the 554 says, Fan, I think that the injuries have honestly been a good thing because it has forced Snit to try something new, and it seems to be working a little bit. Well, listen, does it force Snit to have to coach a little harder? Sure. Will I ever say injuries are a good thing? No, right? You won't hear me say that. I'll never be glad when your best players like Strider and Acuna are injured. I hear you. I understand your point, Texter, but the reality of it is when you look at the team leaders, a moment ago I read out the MLB leaders, but when you look at the team leaders, it's not good when Marcell Ozuna leads the team in batting average, home runs, RBI, OBP, and hits. He literally leads every category right now. And again, if I'd have told Braves fans that, they'd have thought, man, that's really good. Everybody else they'll be right there hitting at 300, 305. This team will be deadly. But when you look at the next guy, Diesel, Ozuna's hitting 322 right now. There's not a Brave that's anywhere really close to him. I mean, the next one's Michael Harris.
Yeah, and it certainly doesn't help that you're playing in the NL East with the Phillies, who are just absurd right now. 47-24, 662 win percentage. They're elite at home. They're elite on the road. The problem right now, Cole, with the Phillies is they're 5-5 in their last 10 games. So the Phillies are definitely cooling off as well. Braves 4-6. The odd thing is the Nationals are coming on strong. They're 8-2 in their last 10, as are the Mets. Both of those teams are still sub 500, but the Nationals are one game back, one game under 500. The Braves with their 551 win percentage, Cole, would be right there in the hunt in any other division in the National League. The problem is you got the Phillies in the same division as you.
Yeah. So I looked at the MLB hitting leaders a minute ago, and I told you there was only one Atlanta Brave in the top 25, right? Which is not good. Pitching wise, the good news is the number one pitcher right now in the MLB is an Atlanta Brave. And the other piece of good news is that there are more than one Atlanta Brave pitchers in the top 25. Reynaldo Lopez, the best pitcher in baseball right now with a 1.69 ERA, which is absolutely phenomenal. He's had an exceptional year that I don't think many people saw coming. And then the other one at 15, Chris Sale comes in with a 2.98 ERA. A guy who's older, has had injury history, but once again has shown that when he's healthy, he's a dangerous pitcher. Him and Reynaldo Lopez. The bright spot, Diesel, I think, for Braves fans is, look, if Reynaldo, Chris Sale, if those two guys keep pitching at the level that they're pitching, and you have a guy like Max Fried, who's had, I don't want to say a rocky start, but an okay start, Charlie Morton's always good in the playoffs. He's proven that. He's a playoff pitcher, right? The bright spot, I think, for the Braves are the pitching's there. If the hitting can come around and this team does get hot at the right time, this could be a dangerous team. I don't think they're a World Series team right now without Strider and Acuna, but they could be a team that goes on a run because of the pitching they have.
Yeah, certainly. They'll find themselves a little thin. I mean, pitching is great for the Atlanta Braves right now. Get down the stretch, you find yourselves thin, and you get exposed down the stretch as a pitcher, as a team with weak pitching. I mean, the Atlanta Braves still have time, I guess, Cole, if they made a move on the mound. They could get themselves back into that contention and put another great starter out there, maybe, depending on what moves they can make. But I mean, it was Jake Mastriani told us last week they don't have any other prospects, right? Especially on the offensive side, hitting. They got who they got, and there is no changing that unless they make some moves on before the trade deadline. That's really all that they can do.
Well, the reality of it is, and to spur Daddy's point, remember 2021 on the stream. I see your message, and I heard Diesel bring it up a minute ago, but guys, this Braves team in 2021 didn't just flip a switch and start playing well. Alex Anthopoulos made moves that literally won him a World Series. The moves that he made, the Braves don't win that World Series in 2021 without those guys on the roster. So, no, I'm not saying that the guys that are currently on the roster can't get better. I'm not saying that. They certainly can. They're good enough to do so. I'm just saying that in 2021, let's not act like it was just all of a sudden a clubhouse meeting where the Braves said, hey, let's start playing good baseball. No, your ownership management group went out and got huge pieces that eventually won you a World Series. That's the difference.
This isn't Major League where they had an owner they didn't like and somebody goes, ooh, let's cut out a puzzle piece of our outfit. And by the end of the season, we'll be able to see your naked if we played good enough. That's not what happened. Hey, if you're listening online, great. On the Odyssey app, we appreciate you. If you're listening on any one of the platforms that carry our podcasts after the fact, incredible. We appreciate you being there. 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg. You got something to say about anything that we're talking about here on the show? Give us a call. The Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone line. That's 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. Cole, I've noticed a marked drop-off in the past 4 or 5 years being on the station. Just the willingness of people to call in and voice their opinion. What's going on there? Is everybody scared? Everybody's scared to actually pick up a phone call and put themselves.
Warriors.
Keyboard warriors. The people are very happy to text into the show, and that's great for our text line interaction. We love you over there as well. But it's always better when we can hear your voice, you Tolos. So pick up the phone, 844-326-3663. On the other side, Cole, I found a fascinating article on ESPN. It is impressions of the 32 first-round NFL draft picks. So the rookie impressions. If you want to know what the experts think of your team's first-round draft pick, hit us up on the text line, 713-07. Drop a comment. We'll let you know what the rookie that your team drafted is up to. That's coming up next here on the Fan Upstate. Yeah, we spent a lot of time, Cole, over the past 2 months or so breaking down what we thought these rookies could be in the NFL. Well, now
Rookies.
they're actually on rosters. They're actually out there practicing. We talking about practice. Well, guess what, Cole? Now that all the spring OTAs are out of the way, how are each of these guys doing?
Not good.
That's the real question.
They all suck.
I mean, like, coaches can come in and say, so-and-so is this, so-and-so is that. But they're not exactly objective here, Cole. We need the media, right? We need people like you and me to be able to break down these guys and see how they're doing. Tolos, hit me up, 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Tell us who is your team, and we'll tell you what the experts say about how these rookies are panning out for your individual teams. We'll start, Cole, with the very beginning of the NFL draft, a guy that, well, I had a lot of question marks about with his attitude, with his ability to adjust to playing in the NFL, with being the number one guy. I mean, it felt like he needed to maybe go to a smaller market where he could focus on football. But Caleb Williams in Chicago, Cole, how do you think he's doing so far?
Well, listen, if you have to ask, I'll say he's doing good because they're not playing football, right? They're just tossing the pigskin around and playing a little 7-on-7. So I'm sure he's looking good. He's probably, without even reading what you've posted on our prep sheet, Diesel, he's probably well poised. He's probably made some good check downs and impressed a few coaches with his ability to connect on the deep ball, something like that.
So here's the assessment that comes from Courtney Cronin, who we see on television very regularly, lives there in Chicago, covers the Bears. The Bears held very little back from their rookie quarterback as he began learning the offense, and his ability to chunk information, put it into buckets, and operate impressed Matt Eberflus throughout the spring. What does that mean? His ability to chunk information. I guess that's to compartmentalize, to say, I'm going to focus on this individual aspect of the game, the pass plays, the run plays, whatever it may be, scheme. They're impressed with his ability, Cole, to really focus in on different elements of the game and not let the whole thing get out of hand and sort of overwhelm him. It says here, coaches encouraged Caleb Williams to experiment with different throws and OTAs and minicamp to see what windows he could hit while making sure his footwork timed up with when he released the ball. He says he's the 22-year-old quarterback naturally experienced ups and downs in practices while going against an experienced defense that used movement and disguises to challenge him. But every now and again, Williams got the better of his teammates. He moved us a couple of times with his eyes, says TJ Edwards, linebacker for the Chicago Bears. Said day one, had some of the guys a little annoyed, a little impressed with how good he was very early at getting defenses off of their rhythm.
So a couple of texts. One, Tolo says his team is the Detroit Lions. Another one says, how about this comes from Chop Robinson, or excuse me, this talks about Chop Robinson, Miami Dolphins first-round pick. This Tolo is asking about the Dolphins. So Lions and Dolphins have both come in.
Okay, let me see if I can find here.
Two of the best teams in the league.
Let's go first to the Miami Dolphins, to Chop
right.
Robinson, linebacker out of Penn State. How's he faring? Well, by the way, this assessment comes from Marcel Louis Jacques. Robinson is not expected to start if the Dolphins are fully healthy, not with Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb ahead of him, but with Phillips and Chubb still recovering from season-ending injuries. Miami will need its first-round pick to be ready to contribute to its pass rush rotation. Try saying that 5 times fast. Sooner rather than later. He's getting valuable experience during spring practice as Chubb and Phillips work their way back, but he's still evolving. What that tells me, he's kind of struggling a little bit. Still evolving. Yeah. You know, you got to kind of
room for growth.
Yeah, you got to read between the lines. You got to take, all right, they're kind of saying this is what they really mean. It says on draft night, Robinson said he needed to improve his hand placement during his pass rushes. After an offseason of work, he said he has 100% improved this and has developed the necessary muscle memory at this point. So guess what? He's an all-pro. After one round of OTAs, after a couple of weeks of practice, Chop Robinson, he's going to be ready to go out there and tear it up.
All right, there's your Dolphins.
Okay,
What about
here
Lions?
is
You find the Lions?
Terrion Arnold. Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama. How's he faring? Arnold has entered his first NFL offseason cycle with the confidence of a seasoned vet and has backed it up with his early play as he fights for a starting role. Arnold displayed his nose for the ball during team drills at mandatory minicamp, where he matched up with all-pro receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown. Great name, by the way. Even getting a pass breakup on day 2. Arnold also picked off Jared Goff in a late-game situation during OTAs. Derek Barnes, a teammate, has already given him a nickname, alluding to both his jersey number and ability to freeze out receivers. You see it now. Call him Sub-Zero. Great. What? That's awesome. His nickname is Sub-Zero with what he's doing out there. So, playing well. Playing well.
Texter, we're going to get to yours. Obviously, the hometown Carolina Panthers from the 434. Texter says Panthers and Xavier Legette.
Okay, so here's the assessment for Xavier Legette. And this assessment comes from David Newton. Carolina traded into the first round to get the 6'3" Legette because he reminded him of the big receivers Mike Evans and DK Metcalf that played big roles in head coach Dave Canales' offenses in the past. They also wanted a receiver who could create separation and get open deep. Despite being slowed by hamstring injury, Legette has been all that and will be a starter right away.
Right away.
Of course he's going to be a starter.
Well, we would hope so since they, spent a first-round draft pick on him.
Yeah. First-rounders going to be starting immediately. That combination of size, speed, and how explosive he is, the way he comes out of his routes, it's definitely something that I got to get used to. This is a quote from Bryce Young. We're working on getting that timing down, but I'm super excited. So that tells me there's a little struggle between Bryce Young and Xavier Legette. That is something that, I remember reporting that a couple of weeks back, Cole, and I had Gamecock fans coming at me, angry that I was saying that Xavier Legette was dropping passes.
Yeah. I don't think that it'll be an issue for Bryce Young. The reality of it is he hasn't had a big receiver yet, a good one, that's worth a crap, that can play in the NFL. And to your point, yeah, he's going to be a starter. And the article says that clearly by David Newton. But the reality of it is, as I've said multiple times, Panthers fans should not be worried if he's going to be a starter or not. Panthers fans should be worried about what David Newton a few weeks ago on this very show said about him being a third-string guy right now. And listen, if I'm a Panthers fan, which I'm not, but if I was, I'd say, look, yeah, we obviously expectations are to start, but we want you to be more than that. We want you to be that number one or number two receiver by the midpoint of the season. That's not too much to ask for, is it?
No, and to quickly get to Madcraft here and Joe Alt with the LA Chargers, said it's tough to assess because, it's minicamp and OTAs. They're going half speed. There's no pads, but he has already been named a starter on the offensive line. So Harbaugh's seeing something good out of him.
All right, coming up in the very next segment, I watched what was an absolutely terrific finish yesterday at the U.S. Open in Pinehurst. Bryson winning it. Yes, he did win it. That's fantastic. But I'll even argue that Rory lost it more than Bryson won it. We'll discuss next. The Gators still lead. However, the Wolfpack are trying their best to tie this thing up. Bottom of the 6th inning. It is 5-4. The Florida Gators are still on top. And is that one runner on Diesel with one out? Is that right?
That's right. 1 on, 1 out.
So, look, we've learned this in college baseball this year. You score all the runs you want too early, but you better score, between the 5th and the 8th. Like Clemson,
Yeah,
you can't keep scoring.
You can't have a great, 1 through 3 innings and just shut it down and stop scoring from there on out. Man, this is college baseball, man. It's high scoring.
Florida's a team that's going to continue to score, and they just got a guy. They got him. He's no base runners on now for NC State. A nice throw by the catcher, and to your point, Florida's a team that's going to keep scoring. Florida's showed that here in the upstate against Clemson.
Got to be aggressive against this Florida team because they can keep scoring.
I like the decision there to try to get second, but just not a good enough jump by the base runner. So we'll keep you updated on Florida NC State.
That's very close.
Was it closer than we thought?
Very, very close.
Initially, I thought it was
got in under the tag, and it was very close.
Well, it's a judgment call. Just call it what it is and be done with it, right? College baseball. I mean, who cares, right? Who really cares if they win or lose? Speaking of winning, speaking of losing, Diesel. Yesterday, man, oh man, I give all the credit in the world to Bryson DeChambeau. He was phenomenal all weekend. Yesterday, those 2 back-to-back shots, in my opinion, before the putt were just phenomenal. All the credit in the world to him. However, Rory McIlroy yesterday was pitiful on the final few holes. Just pitiful. Choked it away. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, I'll give Bryson his flowers. Yes, he played amazing. Yes, I'll give him credit. But Rory missing 2 putts, one from within 4 freaking feet yesterday on the final hole. He had a chance to win it, and then he had a chance to force a playoff, and he did neither, Diesel. He choked, and the drought for Rory continues. I don't want this to be the storyline, but, man, he was pitiful down the stretch.
You mean the story of Rory?
Yeah, I mean, it has been.
The story of Rory McIlroy has been inconsistency late in big rounds. I've seen multiple times over the past year and a half to 2 years, Cole, where he'll be in contention, a shot, 2 shots, 3 shots back in the final round, and he'll just put him off in the trees. He can be that way. And I was hoping that now that once his divorce was called off, he could kind of put some of that stuff behind him and he could play loose golf this weekend. And clearly it got him to a point where he was in contention to win. But
you're right. Played great all weekend.
when you're missing putts, short putts down the stretch that you should, I mean, that's the difference in winning majors versus not winning majors. Everybody there is playing elite level golf, right? Everybody is playing great. So you have to essentially play perfect down the stretch to win.
So I have some thoughts. However, Diesel, like when I watched that yesterday, the first place my mind went was, man, isn't it crazy how sports work? Isn't it just wild that a month ago we sat and watched Bryson DeChambeau literally practicing while he watched Xander Schauffele win the tournament, right? So fast forward a month, Xander wins the PGA. Now Bryson has a chance. Rory is sitting inside. He's already turned his card in. He's watching, and it's kind of a vice versa effect, if you will.
Recall, Cole, that in that round that you're talking about, I believe that was the Valhalla, wasn't it? Wasn't that the place? No, it was a different course before that. Regardless, Bryson DeChambeau off the tee on 18 put one in a bunker. Now he had a phenomenal bunker shot to recover, and I believe he probably made par or birdied. That was the par 5 and last hole on whatever the tournament that was. But had Bryson put one on the fairway there, he wouldn't have needed a clutch shot to get back up there and make par or birdie that final hole. He might have been in a position to eagle and go win that thing. So, it's just the razor thin line between winning and losing a major.
So if you didn't watch yesterday, here's how it went down. Both Rory McIlroy and Bryson DeChambeau entered the final hole of the U.S. Open tied at 6 under par. And as he did all day, it took an epic up and down for Bryson to save par and eventually win the tournament. So McIlroy's tee shot sailed well left into the tall grass. His lie was complicated further as it sat behind a shrub, which I thought was going to be a difficult shot for him. His second shot on the final hole caught a ton of grass, ended up landing on the green, right? And then he chipped onto the green to set up, or excuse me, the grass shot landed just short of the green. He chipped onto the green to set up a very makeable putt within 4 feet, a putt that he didn't hit, didn't have enough speed on it, I believe is what the explanation they said on TV. It rammed out, so he settles for bogey. Bryson, meanwhile, hits an even worse tee shot, Diesel. Also, left of the fairway, his lie wasn't in front of a root and under a freaking tree. If you watched it, you saw yesterday just how long it took Bryson to get comfortable. He finally punched the ball through, and it rolled into a greenside bunker. His third shot was probably even though the tree shot was amazing, his third shot was the best one. Pinning the ball within 4 feet, sunk the putt to save par and win the tournament. McIlroy, whose putter has been his strength all day long, all tournament long, missed 2 putts within 5 feet in the final 3 holes and choked it away.
So what you're saying is Bryson didn't grip it and rip it under that tree, which is what I would do. I would look at it and say, I don't know. Let me just choke down and punch it out of here and have a chance to put myself back in the fairway. Yeah, tough lies for both of these guys. And it just shows that even though these guys are elite golfers, they still make bad shots. They still put the ball in places where it shouldn't be. And they're just phenomenal at recovering. That's what makes these guys so special. If it's me on that hole, I'm putting a 10 on that hole. If I first of all, it'd take me 2 shots to get it where Bryson put it off the tee box because he's a monster.
Yeah.
And then I would have chunked one, and then I would have actually hit one good shot, but it would have gone about 10 yards off the backside of the green. And here I am ping-ponging the ball back and forth. I mean, they talked about just how hard these greens were and how fast these greens were. So, I mean, it seems like Rory maybe got into his own head there just a little bit and thought to himself, these greens are running fast. I got to just be gentle. Just tap it in. Just tap it in. But he didn't put enough mustard on it.
So coming from a guy who's not a golf guy, not a golf expert, doesn't watch a ton of golf except for the majors, I will say this. I think Pinehurst needs to be the home of the U.S. Open. At first, when I started watching on Friday, I thought, man, this is tough. And then I watched the live from the Pinehurst. I think it was actually Thursday night when I watched that, the broadcast, the television broadcast. And just to see the golf experts explain the course, Diesel, and walk through the course, and then watch it again on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, you started to appreciate the course a little bit more. At least I did, even though it was insanely difficult.
Yeah,
I like the scores that we saw this weekend a lot better than I did at Valhalla. Those scores, big difference, right? Pinehurst needs to be the U.S. Open. That place, the difficulty of it makes it fascinating to watch.
Yeah, what we need to see, Cole, is sort of we need golf to understand just how many people are watching, golf influencers, golf YouTubers, and go play a round of golf with an elite golfer. I mean, it would be real easy to turn around and watch 18 rounds of golf at Pinehurst with Paige Spiranac. That'd be real easy to do, right? Or just pick any pro golfer, put them out there on the course 2 weeks ahead of the event, have them play one round, and let them really explain to you what makes this hole so difficult.
Right.
And then if it's coming from a YouTuber that the PGA has a relationship with, you can now insert those things into a round. So when you've got play-by-play guy explaining what makes this hole difficult, you can actually cut to a shot of this golfer on the course explaining to you why it's so difficult, or set up situational shots. Explain why this shot is so difficult on this hole because the greens are set up this way.
So I have 3 takeaways. And Diesel, I want you to let me know if you agree, disagree, push back at all on these takeaways. Tolos, you do the same. If you watched yesterday, 71307 is the text line. Start your text with the word fan. Number 1, it's insane to me, Diesel, that Bryson, who is with Liv, is the golfer in the last, month and a half, other than Scotty, that people are rallying behind. They're pulling for Bryson over Rory. I don't know if it's because he is an American. I'm not sure, but it's wildly insane that Bryson's the golfer who's being pulled for over Rory despite being on Liv. That fascinates me.
Yeah, it is. To bring it back to golf YouTubers, I've seen Bryson really make a push on social media.
A big push.
Because he's trying to change his image. He had this image of a sour, ornery guy who would choke down the stretch, and seems to be, part of it's to make some money, right? Part of it's to give him an opportunity to sell, but part of it is to change his image and show that he is actually a nice, flappable or unflappable, affable kind of guy out on these courses. And I think he's doing a good job of that over the past 6 months, sort of changing that image. He may be an American, Cole, but he does un-American things like supporting, playing for a league that, well, does terrible, heinous things to America.
Well, that's what's fascinating is that the majority of people that you watch on social media and at the course on the television broadcast, like, I thought that there might still be more disdain for Bryson because of him.
They're not
going to
play. They're not going to do that on TV, though.
No, I'm talking about the crowd, like the chanting for Bryson. Like, that's what surprised me, and the USA chants, and then the I think it was hole 15, 16, when they really started getting close to the end. You just heard an overwhelming majority of the crowd pulling for Bryson, and that's wild to me. Maybe people just look past him being on LIV. I think that's what it is. People are looking past it, but it's shocking to me. LIV guys playing in overseas tournaments, I didn't expect to be the guy that's being talked about. Yeah, every now and then for them to come over here and win one of these PGA majors, sure, that's not far off to me, but them being kind of the most popular guy this weekend, that was fascinating. So that's my first takeaway. Second takeaway is Diesel, Rory's drought, like Bryson DeChambeau last night in the post presser, if you will, the post-match press conference. Bryson said, look, Rory's going to win more majors. He's going to win probably a couple more majors, talking about Rory's drought and just how close he was. But my second takeaway is, like, I agree. Part of me, Diesel, agrees with Bryson that, yeah, he should win some more. He has a ton of good golf left. But, man, like, this drought he's in is something else because he's been close a lot and just has come up short. And, one thing we've learned in sports is, man, nothing's guaranteed. So, in my opinion, if I had to put money on it, does Rory still win one? Still, yeah, but dang, he better start doing it quick.
It's tough to say. Rory's 35. Golfers tend to start going downhill around age 40. This doesn't mean you can't still play great golf. It just means that there's 21, 22, 23-year-olds coming up in the game who, sure,
like
you got
Rory,
more experience
right?
than them, right? You got way more experience than them, but their bodies are just younger. They haven't gone through another 10, 15 years of putting a lot of stress and strain on their bodies.
And Rory was that guy.
Yeah.
He was like super young. I mean, what was it? 2010, 2011 when he hit the scene? He was young.
Yeah. And Rory was, obviously Rory was coming up at the very tail end of Tiger Woods. So it's a story exactly like we saw him do at the tail end of Tiger's reign. And young golfers are doing the exact same thing now. So it's tough to say, man. Like, I look at it and say, Rory's probably got to win one within the next 3 years, or it's probably not going to happen for him again.
It's fascinating that he's only 35. If you would have asked me that, I'd have probably said like 41.
He looks
42.
40. He's starting to get a lot of gray.
That's just mind-boggling. Like, man, he's played for a long time, it seems, and he's still 35. He's still young. I mean,
it helps when you go pro at like 9.
I was going to say, he was playing at a very young level. I remember, like you said, when Tiger was in his dominance, Rory came on the scene, and, man, he had to have been 19, 20 years old then.
He turned 18 when he went pro.
Wow. That's
Rory, when he won the Masters, he was 22.
Wow. 22 years old.
Yeah.
Texter from the 843 ask, fan, what's the difference in the PGA tire sponsors doing a ton of business in Saudi and LIV, and also the PGA playing a tournament there annually?
Texters always try to do this, Cole. They always try to say, well, what about this? You whatabouts. Your whatabouts are going to try to do this.
Well, I don't know what they're referring to. Do you?
I would assume the PGA has some tire sponsorship
In Saudi?
with Goodyear. I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about. He's trying to change the subject and trying to get us to argue something for him and make a point for him on a limited amount of information. Texter, I'd love to have this conversation with you, but you got to give us a little bit more than that, right?
Yeah, I'm open to it. I don't know enough about it to comment. I don't know enough about who the PGA spends money with. Listen, would I put it past the PGA to spend money in the same places that the live money comes from? No. Money's money to people.
And to simplify this texter's argument for you, I'm not talking about a league making sponsorship decisions with a country or with advertisers or whatever. I'm talking about an individual, Bryson DeChambeau, choosing to take money from that country, from that league. Okay. I'm not talking about the PGA. I'm not talking about Firestone. I'm not talking about Goodyear, BFG, whoever it is you're talking about, Texter. I'm talking about Bryson. See, that's what you try to do, is you try to change the subject because you can't argue on point, because you know you're wrong, because you don't have an argument to stay on point.
I don't know.
So you change things. It's called a straw man argument.
Well, let me be
clear. You try
clear.
to change the subject because you don't have an argument.
Let me be clear. I don't know. I'm not saying the texter's wrong. I am
saying the texter is wrong. I'm saying that this texter is changing the argument. You come at me and you argue on topic, or you don't come at all.
I don't know enough about the text with the PGA tire sponsors and doing business, and so I don't know enough about the comment. So I'm not going to say whether they're right or wrong. I just don't know enough. I will look into it though, texter. I really will. It's fascinating.
I think, Cole, here's the problem. That's what this texter wants us to do. He wants us to go do his research for him. I want this texter to do his research and send us something that you actually, if you want us to argue something, make a compelling argument that's longer than 27 words and give us something that you want us to argue about. Give us something that you want us to research, or you do the research and you send it to us. It's not our job to do your research for you and make your points for you.
All right, my third takeaway, real quick before we hit a break, because we do have David Cloninger of the Post and Courier coming on next. Scotty playing so poorly on Sunday didn't affect the ending as much as I thought it would. When I initially saw how Scotty was playing all weekend, I thought, man, I don't know if the Sunday rounds is going to be as good now, right? However, it showed, and again, this is no disrespect to Scotty, it showed that I don't want to say they didn't need him, but yesterday, that battle between Bryson and Rory, they didn't need Scotty, right? They really didn't. All right, coming up in the very next segment, David Cloninger, sports writer for the Post and Courier. He broke a story related to Nick Harbor and the Gamecocks next. It is Wire to Wire, the newest afternoon drive show on the Fan Upstate right here in the upstate of South Carolina, 97.1 Spartanburg, 97.7 Greenville, and anywhere in the world on the free Odyssey app. Earlier today, some news broke on Twitter. David Cloninger of the Post and Courier broke the news, and I want to bring David on the program. David's first time joining us, not on this station, but on the newer show, Wire to Wire. David, first of all, how are you, man?
Not bad. How are you guys?
We're doing wonderful. I want to get to the story. Nick Harbor, I believe every time Shane Beamer's been interviewed this offseason, he's been asked about Nick Harbor and his involvement in the U.S. Olympic trails. What are your thoughts on the news that you broke earlier about these Olympics and Nick Harbor choosing not to participate?
Well, I was surprised to hear it. I mean, I was originally just going to run a story on Friday about Nick and the rest of the Gamecocks going to the trials, but specifically with Nick, just because he is a football player of renown, and just to kind of let everybody know, hey, here's what he's up against, here's what he's got to do, here's the timeline should he make it or not make it. And, of course, I got a call back and said, hey, actually, he's not going to go. I said, oh, really? And, basically he sat down with track coach Tim Hall, and they looked at the reality and the probability of what was going to happen, which is that while he did qualify for the 200 meters, his time at the NCAA championships was not so good, and the athletes he was going to be up against, it's like, maybe your best shot is probably going to be a semifinals appearance. So they talked about it, and they mutually agreed that he just wouldn't go this year.
David, is this Nick kind of pulling the ripcord and officially changing his focus back to football? And if this isn't it, when do you feel like that needs to happen?
Oh, yeah, absolutely it is for this year. I mean, he's not going to give up on track, for a potential career down the road. But, of course, in the next few years, there just won't be the Olympics to be concerned about. But he'll still do track this spring. But as for this season, he's not to say shutting it down, but just going ahead, taking a break from track, maybe work on a couple of minor things, and then start getting back into football shape.
David, obviously you cover South Carolina and multiple sports. Now that you've had a few nights to sleep on it, how do you react to the hiring of Paul Mainieri for the Gamecock baseball program?
Oh, it's a terrific hire. Absolutely terrific. And it wins every box. You won the PR angle. You got a great coach who's won before, who's won a national championship before. And any questions about Paul Mainieri, specifically his health and how he's going to operate in the NIL space, have been answered by the staff that he's hired. So it's just an all-around terrific move by Ray Tanner and his staff. And even though it's like, well, you're kind of dragging the guy out of retirement, yes, that's true, but you've already answered the questions about why he retired if he can handle them this time. I mean, he didn't step away from coaching in 2021 because he forgot how to coach or because he was bad at it. His health was a problem. That's been fixed.
David, what was your reaction, and how much fun have you had with the comment that clearly lit the upstate on fire, with Paul Mainieri saying that it's way better living here in the Midlands than it is living upstate? I can tell you that much right now. I mean, is that kind of out of character for Paul? I mean, I loved the Steve Spurrier era, all the jokes cracking and saying that there was a library fire at Auburn and 6 coloring books were lost, things like that. I mean, we need that in this rivalry, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. Just a little gamesmanship. I think every coach that has ever come in here has said some kind of little jab at Clemson. It kind of just goes with the territory, So that's what keeps the rivalry fresh. That's what keeps it fun. And, of course, he's going ahead and saying that to his players and saying that, of course, while you want to win and go to Omaha and that kind of thing, you also want to win that rivalry series. So, it's just a little bit of poking fun. I'm sure the next time any coach gets hired at Clemson, they'll return the favors. And the rivalry is always alive.
David Cloninger of the Post and Courier joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. You can follow him on Twitter at DCP&C. Again, that's at DCP&C. David, Shane Beamer got a nice addition over the weekend, a guy that I saw a good bit last year on Friday nights on the sideline in offensive lineman Shed Surratt Jr. out of Gaffney. Another piece for Shane Beamer to add to the offensive line, a big pickup in my opinion.
Oh, sure. The past couple of years, they call it the Great Wall of Carolina. They've really been getting a lot of these blue chip offensive linemen to come in. So he's another great addition. Of course, he won't be here for another season. But, the guys at Gaffney, terrific program. They turn out great talent year after year after year. So it's just another one that South Carolina has been able to get and keep in state and come to the state school. So always a good thing to have, but now he's just got to get here and start making a difference.
Find him on Twitter at DCPNC. David Cloninger joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. David, there's an impressive list of transfers coming into the program this year. They're coming from all over the SEC, all over the country. A lot of pedigree there, but a lot of times you look at transfers as guys that maybe couldn't cut it where they were coming from, so they're out looking for another opportunity. Who are going to be the guys who are transferring in this year that are going to be immediate impact guys, and who do you still think needs a little development?
Oh, well, I think there's going to be a whole lot. I mean, because basically, guys, you do have to recruit the portal every year now. That's just how you build your team, and whether you like it or don't like it, it's here to stay. And that's just what you have to operate in the new reality of college athletics. But to answer your question about for the Gamecocks, you look at a guy like Kyle Kennard, who was an edge rusher. Georgia Tech did very well. South Carolina needs edge rushing help, and they ended up getting him. You have Brady Hunt, a tight end who actually didn't play last year due to injury, but played very well before that up at Ball State. And then you got several other guys. I mean, one of the late additions to the class, his name's escaping me right now, but he's a receiver out of Florida State, big, tall, strong, and South Carolina needed some receivers, specifically tall, stretch the field types, just so they weren't going to be populated with guys who could only run an 8 to 10 yard go route or 8 to 10 yard cross. So they had their needs. They went ahead and looked at them and got them. And, it's just part of the new game where you have to start getting transfers, and they got a bunch of guys who they know will be able to compete right away. So now you just got to go out there and prove it.
David, I want to go back to the diamond for a quick second. In your opinion, I don't know how much conversation you had with Ray Tanner or what you heard during the hiring process, but one question that Diesel and I got asked a good bit during the last few weeks was, how many no's did Ray Tanner get, or was a guy like Paul Maneri already in Ray Tanner's mind where, yeah, he might have done a few courtesy interviews, but he went straight to Paul and just made it a done deal? Do you know?
Well, I don't believe that Paul Maneri was on the first initial list as a candidate. Now, he and Paul Maneri are friends. They go back years. They were great competitors against each other. And I'm sure he just called him out to say, hey, can I bounce a few candidates off of you? What do you think? And then it turned into him being a candidate. At least from what I know and what I reported, there were a couple of guys in Chris Pollard up at Duke, Dan McDonnell at Louisville, who said, kind of thanks, but no thanks. Cliff Godwin at East Carolina was also on that list because as they kind of knew going in, you can approach him, but it's going to take a whole lot to get him out of East Carolina. But on the flip side, Tom Walter from Wake Forest really wanted the job. He wanted to come here, but when they started looking at it and said, well, I don't know. I mean, there's maybe this Maneri thing comes through. We've got Monty Lee kind of in a standby role. Let's kind of look at that first. So they were able to tell Tom Walter, hey, thanks, but no thanks. So just from those, I know that's I guess 3 guys said they weren't really interested, and USC told one guy that they weren't really interested. And maybe that could have gone to Dan McDonnell a bit too. But the main thing is that they got Paul Maneri kind of late in the process, and it ended up working out.
David Cloninger joins us here on the Fan Upstate. David, Shane Beamer has had his opportunities now to reshuffle the deck chairs as far as his coordinators and his staff goes. He's been given that leeway now. Is in your mind, is Shane Beamer in game mode where maybe 1 or 2 more 5-win seasons and it'll force Ray Tanner to start making that tough decision? I don't think a whole lot of fans have a ton of faith in Ray Tanner to make a groundbreaking football hire.
Well, those fans do have a lot to stand on, considering his first football hire didn't turn out so well. But the fact is, this year, right now, fellas, I can tell you with full authority that Shane Beamer is not on the hot seat going into this year. Last year was a disappointment. He'd be the first to tell you that. But he overachieved so much in his first 2 seasons, really said, hey, it's okay. He didn't have to build maybe as slowly as we thought. So he got up there, 7 wins the first season, 8 wins the second, and last year was a step back. But going into this year, it's just a thing of like, hey, just go out and do what you can do, because last year you got to consider an aberration. You stubbed your toe. You get back to a winning season this year, and then you start building for the future. What he can't do is have another 5-7 or worse, because then that makes year 5 a hot seat season. But right now in year 4, it's like, hey, this is a bad year, so go out there and make it better.
David, we talked about this last week, but I want to hear your thoughts on Coastal Carolina's hire of Chance Miller. What role did he play in assisting Ray Tanner with hires, or was his role more related to just development?
Chance did a little bit of everything in his 10 years here, but since he became associate AD, he was basically Ray Tanner's right-hand man. Coastal made a terrific hire because Chance was chomping at the bit to go and run his own program, show what he could do, and he is going to be a tremendous asset to Coastal Carolina. He did help with a lot of hires, specifically with Shane Beamer and Lamont Paris, the men's basketball coach. And he did a little bit of everything that needed to be done. The soccer game between Manchester U and Liverpool that's coming to Williams-Brice on August 3rd, that's all Chance Miller. He was the guy that saw that could happen and said, you got this big empty football stadium that's only being used 7 times a year. Let's start getting that out there. Let's get more money into the department. And that's how that soccer game worked out. So Chance was an invaluable tool of this athletic department for the past decade, and he's going to be very much missed. And, Coastal got a great one.
David Cloninger of the Post and Courier joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. We're kind of in that last we're starting that deep breath before football really begins, before you kind of put those blinders on and you got to laser focus in on one sport. What's David Cloninger's summer looking like? Are you a get out and travel kind of guy, or do they keep you locked in a room somewhere typing away and hammering away at a keyboard?
Well, I don't like taking much vacation, guys. That's just kind of the way I'm wired. But after doing a coaching search last week, there's definitely some time to decompress. I mean, originally I was going to take today off and just kind of get my arms around the honey-do list and kind of set up how my next few weeks are going to go. And then I get a phone call, hey, Nick Harbor's not going to the Olympics after all. Okay, well, let's just go ahead and get that in. So it's day to day, but hopefully I'll get a week or two before football practice starts. And then, of course, in the middle of July, we got SEC Media Days in Dallas, and I'll handle that. And then, August 2nd will be the first day of practice.
Can I give you a recommendation, David? I know you and I don't know each other well yet. This is your first time on Wire to Wire, and definitely not your last. But if I give you a good barbecue recommendation while you're in Dallas, will you hit me up on it?
I'll try, but you got to understand I'm born and raised in South Carolina, and I got nothing against barbecue in Texas, but you say barbecue in Texas and they bring you beef. Barbecue is pork. So
fair point.
I've been to Dallas quite a few times, and I know some good places to hit, but yes, feel free.
Very good point, Dave. Very good point.
And that is David Cloninger, sports writer for the Post and Courier. Look him up on Twitter at DCPNC. Love somebody we can go round table and kind of hit every aspect of a school's athletics. We appreciate your time, David.
Thanks, man.
Not a problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic stuff there, man.
Yes, it absolutely is. And, that's interesting with Nick Harbor kind of saying, all right, I'm going to kind of hold on and stick with this track as long as I can during the trials. And now, South Carolina fans, that's got to make you feel good to know that, or football fans at least, is going to make you feel good that, he said, look, I'm not going to push for this thing any farther. I'm going to try to, again, like the terms that I put in it before, kind of pull that ripcord and change my focus back to football. It's something that only comes around every 4 years. You take it in stride. Sometimes it hits you as a freshman. Sometimes it hits you as a senior. And, you kind of answer that call when it comes to you.
That's one of the things that I thought was interesting about his answer when we asked him about the Olympic trials. He said, yeah, for this year, you asked him about, can football fans be at rest, in terms of Gamecock fans? He said, yeah, for this year, he's not going to stop pursuing track. So that'll be interesting to follow, obviously, in the future. But, man, for me, Diesel, I don't know what stood out for you, but for me, it was the question about the baseball hire. And you know what, man, I trust David. David's been doing this a long, long time. And when he said that Ray Tanner called Paul to bounce some ideas, some names off of them, and get a feel for who Paul might think would be a good fit. That conversation ended up turning into, well, hey, how about you come coach? Like, can you imagine being a fly on the wall in that conversation?
You get called to consult, and then you end up with the job.
I don't know. I mean, that's fascinating.
Coach, who's the best man for the job? I am.
That was fascinating, man. Like, I love that. And obviously, we talked about it for a week and a half leading up on this very show, Diesel, leading up to the hire. We talked about Godwin. We talked about possible candidates, Wake Forest. I did think that was very interesting that South Carolina said no thanks, to him at Wake Forest. But, man, they evidently got 3 no's off the top of the bat. And maybe Ray Tanner called Paul and said, look, what about these 3 guys? And again, I don't know exactly how it happened, but Diesel, he may have called them. Paul might have said, yeah, those 3 are fantastic. Best of luck to you, and getting them to say yes. But is it not surprising to you, Diesel, that a coach from East Carolina won't come coach in the SEC for South Carolina?
Yeah, that's a very big question. I mean, and do you think it has anything to do with recent history under Holbrook and then Kingston, and saying in his mind, thinking, "Oof, that is a program in decline." I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he's possibly looking at it and thinking that way. Clearly, South Carolina could pay you a lot more than East Carolina can, but maybe he finds himself in a situation where he says, "I'm happy where I am. I'm holding out for the job that I really, really want. I'm not going to just take a job in the SEC to take a job in the SEC." It's fascinating, though.
It is.
We were wondering how many no's would it take, and I think that unfortunately does say a little something about the South Carolina baseball program and the state thereof, and saying that, okay, you're in 3rd, 4th, 5th candidate place now. And that's not to say that every school who makes a big hire gets the first person they call. I mean, that's
correct.
I'm not saying that, Tennessee is a first phone call yes kind of program. They got to do their diligence, and sometimes people are just happy where they are.
Without a doubt. And I'll tell you this, big thanks to David for hopping on. You'll find few people. Listen, our state, there's a plethora of really good sports writers and journalists. You'll find few people as plugged in to South Carolina athletics as David Cloninger. I just tell you, a lot of people, have known David for a long time. And yes, when you get as good as David, you have people who say, oh, David's no good. Well, those haters are just stupid, because David does a fantastic job, and we appreciate him hopping on with us.
Spartanburg J, a big fan of that quote. Barbecue is pork.
So, yeah, we could probably spend another 3 segments on that.
I could fight that out with David Cloninger. Look, I love pork barbecue, but I've lived it my entire life. I like to branch out a little bit, and I'm turning into a brisket man.
So it's a fantastic conversation. It's hard to beat good pulled pork, and right, like South Carolinians, they'll say, yeah, pulled pork that's true barbecue. And then the Texans will say, no, it's brisket. Also, I did want to get to the text from the 843. He said, my earlier text about the PGA Tour, it was supposed to say tour, not tire. The PGA sponsorship reportedly does over $40 million in Saudi, and the tour itself making deals. Let me see if there's more to that text. With the Saudi PIF, why do we show disdain to individuals and not the entire PGA for the same thing? Texter, I'm sorry for reading tire. I didn't make sense. I was like, what is it? What are you talking about? Tires? But I read, as we know on this show, I read what's on the text, okay? Sometimes good, sometimes bad. But we appreciate the information. We'll look into it. I'm fascinated by it. I need to know more about it. I need to look it up and see what kind of dealings the PGA does with.
We live in a complex world.
Saudi, for sure. So tire. Tour, not tire. I still can't. Well, the texter said PGA Tire, and I was reading it thinking, what does he mean by PGA Tire? I had no clue.
Yeah, I was like, are you talking about official tires?
Yeah,
the PGA?
They make tires in Saudi? Like, what are we talking? Are we talking NASCAR, golf? I don't know. I'm confused. Diesel, we have so many daily wires that we have a part 1 and a part 2. Part 1 next. Every single day, we try to keep you up to date. We try to give you the headlines that you need to know, that you need to hear about. So much happened this past weekend that we had to break it into 2 parts. Daily Wires Part 1. It's the latest buzz in the sports world. Like what you did there? Like what you did there? I like it. Diesel, Florida State defeated Virginia on Sunday, 7-3. Some college baseball scores for you. Tennessee defeated UNC, as we know, 6-1. Kentucky over NC State 5-4. A&M defeated Florida on Saturday 3-2. And right now, game 1 of today, the first game of the day, if you will, is nearing the end. We have it on our studio monitor. We're following along. We will keep you up to date as well. It is the top of the 9th inning.
5-4. Florida leading this ball game, elimination game. The loser of this game does go home.
So this is huge.
So NC State has an opportunity.
Oh man,
they have just walked. Is that Jack Caglione, number 14 for Florida?
I can't tell. I know the pitcher's up above. Is he above 100 pitches now? The pitch count.
Wow.
For NC State, is that right?
Seems like not a smart thing to do.
So wow, did Jack just get walked?
Yeah, he just got intentionally walked. He's leading the nation in intentional walks at 30 this year. Charlie Condon.
Why do teams wait till the end of the game to walk?
Yeah, right. Never let this guy bat.
After he hits a homer earlier. Clemson did the same thing. Clemson did the same exact thing. I don't know why they wait. Like, if you're going to walk them the whole game.
Yeah, 1 on, 2 outs, top of the 9th. Florida trying to get a little insurance here. If Ashton Wilson can put one in play. I don't know if Jack Caglione, as big as he is, of course, now he's just popped out to right field.
So that end the inning.
That's going to end the inning.
Bottom of the 9th we go.
Bottom of the 9th.
Will we see a Wolfpack walk-off?
Wow.
Or will the SEC continue its dominance?
Well, the SEC is 3-0 in this postseason tournament. At least in Omaha, 3-0 against the ACC.
About to make it 4-0?
Yes, they are.
Man, I hope
it's tough to argue with that. You know, it's like you can argue one data point. It's tough to argue one data point and say that has any kind of significance. But Cole, when you look at it over the course of an 8-team tournament, double elimination tournament, if the SEC teams are winning way more often than not, it shows you something.
Yeah, if Florida wins this game, Diesel, I might have to strike up an old post on the Fan Upstate Facebook page for those that the Clemson fans that got mad at me earlier in the year, for saying that the SEC. Well, I said the SEC was stronger. Every Clemson fan said, "Oh, you're just an SEC homer. You're an idiot, right?"
No, the SEC is stronger. I don't think it's as wide of a gap as it is.
No.
In football.
No, it's not.
It's much tighter.
The Braves won a series over the weekend. Shocker, right? Against the Tampa Bay Rays. They are now 38-31 on the season, 8 games out of first place. So they're making up a little ground. Caitlin Clark becomes the fastest player in WNBA history to record 200-plus points, 75-plus rebounds, and 75-plus assists, but still not good enough for the Olympics. Bryson DeChambeau, he held off Rory McIlroy yesterday to win his second, not one, but 2 U.S. Opens. And Diesel, breaking news yesterday, former Gamecock coach Mark Kingston is expected to finally make it to Omaha. He is expected to be hired by Creighton.
You can't keep a good man down.
He is going to Omaha. What do you mean? Come on, Gamecock fan. Listen, if we would have told Gamecock fans that on, what's today's date? June 16th, 17th? Mark Kingston be in Omaha. They said, oh, maybe we have a chance. Well, guess what? He's in Omaha.
Funny. That's just funny. Hey, it's funny. We talked last week. I don't know if it was Thursday or if it was Friday. You asked the question, are we ruining Caitlin Clark? And over the weekend, I think it was late in the day on Friday, she came out and basically said, hey, you guys stop using my name to push your agendas. Because it's getting out of hand. It really, really is. And she said, yo, stop doing that. And then, of course, it's tough to talk. What's going on in the court when there's so much craziness going on. That's kind of tertiary and around that Angel Reese foul on Caitlin Clark. Have you seen it?
Oh yeah.
Angel Reese saying there's some people out there just got a special whistle. So she's already accused. Like she hacked her in the side of the head with her forearm. And then she's saying, well, it's not really foul. Some people just get special whistles. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. That sorry, Madcraft, was not a judgment call. That was absolutely a foul.
And she gets mad about it. And
Yeah.
Here's the deal. I watched the post-game press conference today, and it's pitiful. Like, it's a terrible look for her to sit there and say, oh, well, the referees are trying to push the – they ain't trying to push it. They call a foul. If you hit a man with a shovel, I mean, you're going to go to jail. I mean, what do you expect? That was a terrible foul, and there is the first strike of the bottom of the ninth. So the Florida Gators are 2 outs away from sending the Wolfpack home back to North Kakalaki, Diesel.
How about that, man? ACC teams just dropping like flies out here. Not going to be keeping up with the Roccos.
Ooh, no swing there. He's mad about that one. He didn't like that.
Oh,
Did you see that word?
Was that an F word? That's a word we can't say on the radio.
Free or fire?
Fudge.
Did he say fudge?
He did say fudge.
He was not happy about that. Well, he didn't swing. He was not happy about the call by the umpire. Shane Barrett says, special whistle my A money sign. She knocked the Shane, you know what? I'm learning my lesson with you. I'm not reading these curse words on air anymore. She knocked the heck out of her head. Shane's already gotten me in trouble too many times. Not in trouble, but I've had to hit the dump button reading Shane's messages.
She was trying to show Rory how to hit a putt.
Yeah, that's true. All right, bottom of the ninth. Before we hit a break, let's see if this game can end before we go to break. This one's popped up out of play, Diesel. So NC State down to their final 2 outs. We're going to have to run in a minute, but give a prediction, a Diesel prediction. Does Florida close it, or do we see some late heroics by the Wolfpack?
Florida closes. NC State was one of those. Yeah. It's not, I don't think NC State has it in them to get this done.
He went.
He went around.
He went.
Okay, they're not going to review it.
Judgment call.
Judgment call.
So 2 outs now here in the bottom of the ninth. The Gators are 1 out away, and NC State. You look at the players in the dugout, man. The kind of
NC State leading this game 6-4 in hits. Just when Jack is hitting 3-run bombs in the second, it's hard to overcome that. Later on tonight, Cole, at 7:00. Texas A&M versus Kentucky. That one not an elimination game.
He's beaten several teams just by himself.
Yeah,
like his again. I don't understand it. Why do you pitch to him early?
Ever.
Yeah, but then you don't do it late. Just put him on.
If you had Jack on though and a runner on first and second, would you walk him to load the bases?
Yeah.
Would you walk Jack Caglione to load the bases?
I'd walk him to bring a run in. It's better than a freaking grand slam.
One's better than 3. I guess you're right. When we come back, Cole, it's time for you and I to put up our dukes and fight about it on the 5:00 fight. Cole, we asked, can they do it? Can the NC State Wolfpack come back? And right on cue, just as we went off to commercial break, womp, womp, pop fly to right field. Ball game over. The Florida Gators stave off elimination, and they send NC State back to Raleigh where they can get some of that delicious vinegar-based pork barbecue.
Yep. Back to Raleigh they go.
Back to their ugly brick buildings in Raleigh. Cole, each and every day right here at 5 o'clock, we do what we call the 5 o'clock fight. It is our most interacted with segment on the show each and every day because you, the Tolos, get to tell us which one of us is right and which one of us is wrong. Wait a minute. That sounds like every segment on the show.
That's true.
Every time we talk about anything, you tell us who's right and who's wrong. But here we go. 3 rounds. We fight it out on 3 different topics. You tell us who's right. JD says, gosh dang Gators.
They got it done.
JD.
Yeah, really.
Language.
Belt button.
So here's how you let us know. After we go through each round of the 5 o'clock fight, you text into the show, 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Tell us who wins that round. Or if you're watching on the web stream, on Facebook, on Twitter, or on YouTube, drop a comment in the comment section. Cole, when you were a kid, did you do all your homework on Friday afternoon or wait until the very last minute on Sunday night, cram it all in, and go back to school basically unprepared?
Where is option 3? That you did the homework? I mean,
you
come
didn't do
on.
the homework at all?
No, I'm just kidding. Of course I did the homework, right? Of course, yeah, homework. Diesel, I hate to tell you. The homework was usually being done in class before it was due, like 10 minutes. You like, let's get there early today and sit in the room for an extra 10 minutes just so we can get to class.
Is that why you got held back a year?
Yeah, I redshirted. Okay, I redshirted. Don't held back. I was a redshirt. I mean, it took me 5 years to graduate college, but I redshirted my freshman year. I mean, COVID year. Come on. No, listen, I'm a wait till the last minute guy when it came to the homework. I'm not proud to admit it, but it was not my most favorite thing to do in the world.
No, I was come home, half-ass it, but get it done as fast as I could on Friday afternoon, Cole, because I had other things to do, right? You got baseball, you got basketball, these sports growing up as a kid you got to do. And then Sunday night, we got the family together. We sat down and we plopped on TV. We would watch things like The X-Files. I loved watching that show. And I had to get it all done. If I didn't have everything done by then, I couldn't stay up late and watch X-Files, which I think was like 10 o'clock. X-Files aired. Anybody tell me that? What time did it air? If I didn't have all my homework done, I couldn't stay up late and watch X-Files. Now I just can't stay up past 10 o'clock on a Sunday night.
That makes
It's
sense.
called turning 40, man. You can't do it anymore.
Listen, I know that wasn't the responsible answer, but please let the Tolos agree with me on this.
Next
come
up,
on.
Tonight, Cole, game 5.
Ooh, let's go.
And another chance for the Mavs to stave off elimination. They are back in Boston. My question for you on the 5 o'clock fight: will Kyrie Irving's performance tonight be more like games 1 and 2, where he basically didn't get off the bus?
Yeah.
Or games 3 and 4? Now, 4 was a much better game than game 3, but he still performed in game 3. So more like games 1 and 2 or games 3 and 4?
This is a terrific yet challenging question. And listen, I'm trying my best to answer this with no bias, right? I'm not saying what I hope happens. I'm saying what I think will happen when it comes to Kyrie, because you're right, Diesel. In games 1 and 2, he didn't get off the bus. 3 and 4 at home, like I said, I thought he would. He did show up. I'm going to go out on a limb for Mr. Kyrie Irving. And the limb that I'm going out on might not be a good idea to go out on because, I'm probably a few pounds heavier than I need to be, and the limb's probably not as strong as it should be. I'm going to risk it for the biscuit here, Diesel, and say Kyrie shows up tonight in Boston. Maybe that's a little bit of my wishful thinking, but I'm going to go Kyrie shows up tonight.
You sent me a stat on Saturday night or Friday night, I believe, that said the point differential, because game 4 was such a blowout,
Yeah.
the series point differential is actually in favor of the Dallas Mavericks.
That is the dumbest sports stat I have ever read.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. I mean, just an embarrassing loss for the Boston Celtics. And in the words of Michael Jordan, I think they're going to take that personally. I think the Boston Celtics are going to come out angry and say, no way, no how. Are you going to kick our asses in game 4 and then come back and win again in our house? No, I think Boston is going to shut them down. Now, it obviously hurts that they don't have Kristaps, but they got to get back to what they were doing in games 1 and 2, where they were really moving the ball around. Everybody was scoring a lot. The Mavs defense couldn't hone in on anybody. I mean, it's not like Luka hones in on anybody on defense, right? He
did
sucks
for
on
one
defense.
game. One game he did, but you know what? That needs to be like round 2B. Will Luka play? He played phenomenal defense of the night, but will he keep it up? That's a good question.
Yeah, Celtics are going to shut him down. And finally, a lot of people think this, Cole, but you asked a very interesting question. Is the Masters really the best major of the year?
Yeah, I might ruffle some feathers here. I know, listen, you have the parties, you eat the pimento cheese sandwiches, you eat the – what else did we eat that day? What other sandwich did we eat?
Egg salad sandwiches.
Egg salad sandwiches and all the mixed drinks that you make from the mat. I get the tradition and all that's fine and dandy. But for someone like me, Diesel, who would consider themselves a very casual golf fan and only watches a handful of golf tournaments a year, I like the different aspects that the other courses provide. I loved this past weekend's tournament. Is the Masters the best major of the year? Well, you might say it has the most tradition. You might say it has the most history. It's the most prestige. But I'll tell you this, it's not the best major of the year. The Masters, that's right, I said it, is not the best major of the year. There's better golf played at other majors. Scottie Scheffler ran shot this year in Augusta. Yes, I said it.
No, the Masters is played at the perfect time of year, right? Like, it's not blistering hot. They were saying that it was going to be pushing 100 degrees this weekend out at Pinehurst. I haven't seen what actually pushed, but I can tell you, Cole, it was in the low 90s here. So it had to have been hot at Pinehurst this weekend. Look, you don't have the blistering heat. You have the tradition. That's what I love about the Masters. That's what makes the Masters great. You don't have $15 beers. As a matter of fact, I looked up the U.S. Open Reddit just to see what the prices were.
Yeah,
at the U.S. Open this weekend. $15 beers, $7 hot dogs. What? Stop
stadium
it with that.
prices, right?
Yeah, stadium prices. It was rough, man. The Masters just knows what's up. You got the beautiful scenery with the azaleas blooming right on time. I love the fact that it's at the same course every year, and these guys can go out and just show you how it's done on a place that they know very well.
For whatever reason, I like the mix-up. I like mixing it up and playing at different courses just to get a different feel. I'm not saying, don't hear me say I don't like the Masters and don't like Augusta. It's phenomenal.
Would it change your mind, Cole? And this is not something that they would ever do. Would it change your mind if Augusta had more than one golf course? Like, there's Pinehurst number 2 and Pinehurst number 1. If they had 2 courses and they changed it, they flip-flopped year in and year out. Odd years they play where they did this year. And,
it's a good question.
I mean, there's just so many iconic places on that course.
No, I get it. I don't want to be that guy that says they need a second course. I don't want to do that because then I'd feel like a terrorist or something, Like, I don't want to be that guy. That Augusta is Augusta. I won't go that far. Shane asked on the stream, is Cole smoking in there? I mean, I know it's going to ruffle some feathers and get a little disagreement, but I don't know, man. Like, it's just, I just like the challenge, and I'm not saying it's not. Don't hear me wrong. I just like the challenges that the other courses provide.
Well, there you go. Round 1 of the 5 o'clock fight. When you were a kid, did you do all your homework on Friday or wait to do it at the last minute? I did my stuff on Friday. Cole waited until 5 minutes before it was due. Like literal last minute.
Yeah, literally.
Round 2, will Kyrie's performance in Game 5 be more like Games 1 and 2 where he sucked, or Games 3 and 4 where he was pretty good? Cole said that Kyrie was going to show out. In the toughest situation, he was going to be that dude. I said, no way. The Celtics are going to shut him down. And round 3, is the Masters the best major of the year? I said, yes. Cole hates America. Cole likes moving it all over the place. He likes all these changes that are happening in college football.
Yeah.
He wants to take away all tradition.
Mhm.
Okay, there you go. That's the 5 o'clock fight. If you want to suggest a fight, here's how. And you Tolos, you know what's up. 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. You can start getting your votes in for the 5 o'clock fight. You can also comment on Facebook, Twitter, or on YouTube. I'll take the stream today, Cole.
All
Let's
right.
see if we can go back and find what you, the Tolos, said earlier.
While you do that, I'll take the text because
ahead.
they're slow on the text today.
Okay.
They're slow, just like they are in Augusta.
They're worn out from being out in that 100-degree
right.
heat.
Wyatt on the text line. Wyatt's the first one to get his thoughts in. He says round 1, draw, because who does homework anyways?
There's no draws.
Round 2, Cole, even though you never bet on Kyrie. Round 3, draw. Golf sucks. Cole wins. Wyatt, who we appreciate, takes it. Wyatt's just being a diplomatic guy here and going draw.
Being a diva is more
I
like
mean,
it.
come on. Let's see. The 464 says, I give today to Diesel. Masters it is. Always homework early, says Bullwinkle. Again, another Diesel win. Lefty Tiger says Cole round 1, Diesel 2 and 3.
I mean, I learned that from watching Wayne's World. He said you come home, you get all your homework done, and then your weekend is free to just party.
I just had the other way around, just not
just
do
partied.
it and just
You just partied.
not
and
do
then,
the homework.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
What's that saying? C's get degrees.
Mhm.
Yep.
And it's true.
On the web stream, let's see here. JD says Cole wins round 1. He says he is the world's worst procrastinator, or best, doesn't know for sure. He also says that I win round 2. Kyrie doesn't show up. Boston wins on 6/17 for the second time since 2008. And their area code is 617. Good pull, JD. 617, the area code for Boston. Says they're going to win it here on 6/17.
Oh,
And let's see. JD says
I like that.
He says you win today
Thank you,
because he
JD.
likes rotating the courses. Says only 2, I think, rotate. So yeah, the Masters is a little predictable. That's blasphemy in the South. You're right, JD. It is blasphemy in the South. Let's see here. Madcraft says Cole wins round 1. Friday afternoon was for playtime, man. Yeah, you guys with your ADHD, you were just stuck in school all week. You got to get out. You got to go. You got to break free.
That's how I was.
on
Really.
a Friday afternoon.
I mean, that's really how I was. I mean,
Yeah.
ADHD severely.
My parents always had to work a little bit later on Fridays. So like I had time to get it all done, just knock it all out as quickly as I could. That was just, I'm not that kind of guy anymore. I'm a procrastinator now. Granted, my homework now is not like what my homework was back then.
Well, it helps when you like it, right?
That's true. Madcraft says Diesel wins round 2. Diesel wins. It's the Masters, man. So you got outvoted there by Madcraft.
He's just mad at me from the umpire conversation earlier. Come on, Madcraft. All right, Spartanburg J says, round 1, Cole. Round 2, Diesel. Round 3, Diesel. Everything is right with the world today. Diesel wins, says Spartanburg J. So Spartanburg J sides with you today. Let's see. Diesel wins, or excuse me, Texter says this comes from the 910. Diesel lost today on the X-Files comment alone.
What?
Whoa.
Why?
X-Files hate?
You didn't like X-Files? Man.
Oh,
You telling me you didn't have a crush on the lady agent?
G on the text line says Diesel wins 2.
Gillian Anderson?
Is that who it was?
Agent Scully? Come on. You weren't a red-blooded American male at the time if you didn't think Agent Scully was hot.
G says Diesel wins 2. Cole wins 1 and 3. I did a little homework that night, but the rest of it the next day. Texter asked, this comes from the 405. What is Cole smoking because it smells awful loud outside the studio with his Kyrie talk? Kyrie hate. Are you just doubting them tonight? JC says Cole wins, takes rounds 1 and 3. Fat Paid chimes in and says Cole 3-0 because Diesel hasn't sent the check. You forgetting to pay your Tolos there, Diesel?
Well, I got a 20 right here. You want this, Fat Paid? I got it right there.
I mean, he is literally waiting on you to pay him off so he can vote for you on the 5 o'clock fight. Is that ethical or not? How about that?
No,
you
but
gotta do what you gotta do.
It's not ethical, but I respect it because this is America. Make that money.
You gotta do what you gotta do. I like it though. Real quick, back to Kyrie. I don't know why people love to hate on Kyrie, but look, man, like he has a chance tonight. I'm not saying Diesel they do the unthinkable. I'm not saying they come back. Don't hear me wrong.
Like, do you really think Luka has got another defensive performance like that in him?
Well, that's what I think Kyrie tonight in Boston, he has not yet had a screw you Boston game in Boston. Like where he just goes in, says, screw you, Boston. I'm going to do what y'all wanted me to do here, and I'm going to put up 40. I could really see that happening. I could see Kyrie going into Boston tonight and saying, I'm going to have a screw you Boston game, and I'm going to go off, and Luka's going to go for 28 or 30 or whatever. No, Luka, I don't trust Luka defensively night in, night out, but, man, Luka played phenomenal the other night. So, listen, to play the devil's advocate, Diesel, if they were to win tonight and make this a 3-2 series, boy, does it get interesting then, right?
Well, you do know that Kyrie is 1-13 in Boston since stepping on Lucky.
Well, that's not a good thing then.
Yeah, no, I mean, do you believe in curses? I don't. But
no.
But I mean, it just adds a little extra fuel to the fire. It's fun to talk about. It's like, how come the Carolina Panthers have never drafted a Clemson Tiger? Do they have something against them? No, it just hasn't happened. And Kyrie has been awful in Boston since playing there.
He has been. And listen, there is I don't believe in that kind of just bad luck or bad will, if you will. But I do think there's something to a team having your number. And for whatever reason, I do think Boston has Kyrie's number.
He gets in his head when he plays in Boston.
Well, hopefully tonight. And I asked this question a few weeks ago. But Diesel, hopefully tonight, the outcome, and again, I am pulling for Dallas, but the outcome is Dallas on top so that we get to ask the question tomorrow, could the unthinkable happen? A team's never come back down 3-0. Dallas, they won game 1, or excuse me, they lost 1, 2, and 3. They won game 4 the other night in Dallas. If they were to win tonight, it'd be game 5, be a 3-2 series, back to Dallas. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no team has ever come back from down 0-3, but anything could happen here. Fat Paid, by the way, comes back in, Cole, and says Diesel sweeps. Just kidding.
Oh,
about
wow.
Not sending the check. Sorry, buddy.
Wow. That's bad.
Sorry.
You can't change your text like that, Fat Paid. I mean, come on. That's terrible. Terrible, I tell you. Speaking of terrible, Diesel, you mentioned it earlier, I believe, in the 4 o'clock hour. There's more drama on the Caitlin Clark front. Angel Reese is upset with the media. They're attacking, they're trying to push their narrative, says Angel Reese. We're talking about Caitlin Clark, but it's not because her team actually won the game yesterday and beat Angel Reese. We're talking about her because of hard fouls once again. Get your thoughts in 71307. Start your text with the word fan.
a basketball player. I can't control the refs. They affected the game obviously a lot tonight. So I'm always going for the ball, but y'all gonna play that clip 20 times before Monday. So it's cool. I think we went up really strong a lot of times and we didn't get a lot of calls. And going back at looking at the film, I've seen a lot of calls that weren't made. I guess some people got a special whistle, but just being able to play hard as best as we can. I'm still proud of Camilla going on, still getting a double-double. And that's something y'all not going to be able to stop regardless of the referees. Like, we're here for a while. We're not going to be denied.
So that's Angel Reese. Not being denied, not having a special whistle, if you will. So if you're not really sure what's going on, there's more drama on the Caitlin Clark front. Angel Reese, post-game audio, you just heard, she's a little upset because she believes the referees have a special whistle towards the Caitlin Clarks of the world. And when I mean of the world, I mean her, because evidently they're only giving Caitlin Clark the foul calls and nobody else, Diesel.
It's funny, Cole, if you just polled, thousands of sports fans across this country, some would say Caitlin Clark's not getting enough calls. Like, they got to treat her with kid gloves. You can't let pro basketball players bang into each other, right? And then there's some who say, well, she's just not ready for the physicality of the pro game.
Yeah, that's
and there's some people who say she's getting too many calls. It's fascinating. I mean, this rivalry has been going on. This personal feud between them has been going on for a long time, Cole. But I looked it up and I wanted to see who's won more games in their head-to-head matchups. Angel Reese still holds that lead 4-3, but Caitlin Clark has won the last 3 in a row. So Angel Reese is maybe a little butthurt that she's not beating Caitlin Clark.
Listen,
does she feel like she deserves all the attention? Maybe.
Well, she is something else. She's a heck of a player. She really is. As Kim Mulkey would say, girl, you're something else. She's phenomenal. Angel Reese is phenomenal. Camila Cordoso, she's phenomenal. But listen, you said it earlier. We're not talking about the Indiana Fever beating the Chicago Sky 88-83 yesterday in a game that I did watch. We're talking about the flagrant foul that Reese committed on her former college rival. So look, is the WNBA better than it was? Are eyeballs on the WNBA? Sure, they are. However, I do think that we have a serious problem that the national media and even local shows like you and I, Diesel, whenever we do bring up Caitlin Clark, we're not talking about her team. We're not talking about her setting records and being the first player in NBA or WNBA history to record 200-plus points, 75-plus rebounds, and 75-plus assists. We're talking about the hard fouls. Will that last forever? I hope not. I hope it does. I don't think it will, but for whatever reason, man, this is not what the WNBA wants by any stretch of the imagination.
Are you sure? Because the WNBA is getting a lot more attention than it's ever gotten. The
but
question
what's that
is,
turn into, though?
It does. It turns into a bunch of fans who want to see a boxing match night in and night out. Fans who will tune in the next time Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark play each other and then get mad that they're not fouling each other hard. It's like I did see something, Cole, the other day that troubled me about the WNBA. They said despite all of the extra attention that the WNBA is getting right now, it's still losing a lot of money.
You know how much? The WNBA in 2024 is expected to lose $50 million despite surging interest. So, that is not wallet, chump change, Diesel.
That's not good. Where does that money come from? Does that come from the NBA? Is the NBA who's making money hand over fist? Are they expected to foot the bill for the WNBA? I mean, the question is why even have a league if it's not profitable? There was the comedian Bill Burr, right?
Yeah.
He did a whole bit about the WNBA.
I've seen it.
And this was a couple of years ago, so it's not a new bit by any means. And go look it up so you can, because I'm not going to quote him accurately. It's been a while since I've seen it. But he says, basically, you have a league. Now go watch it. because it's not my responsibility to go watch it for you, to be interested in it for you, to go spend money for you to keep this thing afloat. He goes, if you're so interested in it, how come you're not buying any tickets? How come you're not showing up to games? It's a fascinating question.
It's a fascinating question. It really is.
People are going to Caitlin Clark games, to Fever games, but I'd be willing to bet, Cole, and I haven't looked around the rest of the league and other games, I'd be willing to bet their attendance is just as bad as it's always been.
It's higher this year, but the attendance doesn't turn profit. Like, here's the issue, Diesel. The WNBA remains unprofitable in its 28th year. Commissioner of the NBA, Adam Silver, said in 2018 that the WNBA had lost an average of more than $10 million annually since its founding, which means they've never turned a profit. The Washington Post Diesel even reported that now that the league has the eyeballs, it's expected to lose, like I said, around $50 million in 2024, a 5-fold increase on the current average. You say how? Well, I guess I tell you, I guess there's a ton of money going out, and I guess there's just not enough coming in.
Spending a lot. I guess maybe they're spending a lot of money in marketing, but the ad rates haven't yet caught up to the increased attention. Maybe the increase in attention is not what we thought it was going to be.
Well, here's a great example of that. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, obviously the two we're talking about. They've helped fuel the interest, right? Clark's regular season debut, Diesel, for the Fever averaged 2.12 million viewers on ESPN2, making it the most watched NBA game or WNBA game ever. The Fever, just talking about Caitlin Clark's team, they've already surpassed their total home attendance for the entire 2023 season after just 5 games in 2024.
So that's where I go back to some things that I said weeks ago months ago when the women's tournament was still going on. How can college basketball sustain and create stars so that Caitlin Clark is not just a blip? Caitlin Clark comes out of the college ranks every year, so that the more of these stars get spread across the league.
Yeah,
there are stars in the league. I'm talking stars outside of the league, players that people know and will tune in to watch, not just the Fever.
So here's some details behind it. And this helps a little bit, but it's still mind-boggling that they're losing so much money. The NBA, Diesel, which owns roughly 60% of its female counterpart, has pumped hundreds of millions of dollars into the WNBA. So as I continue to dig, what's fascinating is the Washington Post reported that the WNBA could be in line to triple its annual rights revenue to between $180 million and $200 million in the next cycle. It was reported in March that the WNBA could seek to unbundle some of its media rights from the NBA to try and maximize those revenue streams. The NBA, though, is not separating the rights of both leagues in the ongoing negotiations, and Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, said that the WNBA should continue to do integrated media rights deals with its male counterparts.
That's a gamble. And if the WNBA feels like the tide has been raised, and it's not going to go back out, then it may behoove them to try to break free and do their own thing and go independent. But if that happens, Cole, and they break free and now they don't have the financial backing of the NBA, that's when the league could go under. I mean, look, you gotta build the new interest, and then the next time you renegotiate your deal, you ask for more money, right? It doesn't just happen instantly. You don't say, hey, we got this star coming into the league, pay us 3 times what we're getting paid before. No, they're going to say, all right, show us that this star can get the ratings, and then we'll pay you triple if that's what they're asking for in your media rights deal. So that's a double-edged sword to go independent and do your own thing. But I mean, pardon the bad pun here, but it would be a ballsy thing to do.
It would be. And the WNBA before, Diesel, has expressed frustration over the lack of transparency about the league's finances and have said that they could opt out of current collective bargaining agreements, which runs until 2027 before the 2025 season. So the NBA remains right now an active partner with the WNBA, right? It's shown a ton of support, as I just said. The problem is the stakeholders must ensure a strategy is in place to support the WNBA's profitability, because without the NBA, there is none, right?
Yeah,
There's none now.
It sounds clearly like they're saying, hey, we don't believe you when it comes
Sure.
to all of these financial reports. We believe that you're making more money, and we believe that we should be getting paid more money.
What's crazy is, man, they've never made a profit, ever. Like, they're not. That's not built to last.
Sadly, I don't want this to end up being like the movie A League of Their Own. Have you ever seen it? A League of Their Own.
Yes, I have.
Where it was this wildly popular league for a very short period of time, and the fans were there and they were packing the place out. And then flash forward 30 years down the line, at the end of the movie, they were essentially playing at a rec field. And that's kind of what the league had dwindled to. And that's the gamble that the WNBA would be making if they said, all right, well, we believe that we can make more money on our own. Hey, go by all means. This is America, right? If you think you can make more, go. But you don't have angel investor behind you pumping money into your league to keep you afloat if you're not making money on your own.
Well, the bottom line is, the moral of the story, the bottom line is, attendance doesn't equal revenue and profit.
No.
Because if you look at the league by league comparison, here's a NBA Diesel versus WNBA comparison table. NBA revenue, let's see what year this was. 2023, $10 billion for the NBA, $60 million for the WNBA.
Oh my God.
We're talking about $10 billion versus $60 million.
I don't even think my calculator on my iPhone will go that high. I don't think you can get to billions on an iPhone.
I don't believe you can.
There's 10,000.
No, I don't believe
There's
you.
10 million.
Can you?
Nope.
Won't
You
do
can
it.
get to 100 million.
Average salaries, Diesel. NBA, $9.6 million is the average salary. Average salary in the WNBA, $102,000. That is astronomical.
Now imagine, Cole, if there was a push to increase the salaries of WNBA players to be proportional to men's salaries, right? The league would be so far deep in a hole. It's like they can't afford to pay you any more money.
No.
This is what they can afford to pay you, but they give you the opportunities to make a ton of money in endorsements if you're a big enough personality.
Look, it's sad. I'm not saying that I hope this league dies, but I'm telling you, to be fair to the female athletes, it's very sad that this is the reality. However, the money is the reason you'll survive. And if even with the Caitlin Clarks of the world, Diesel, if they don't reach a solution, man, this just isn't. You can't keep repeating this.
I mean, are we going to end up in a world where we're seeing high school boys and girls doubleheaders, where the WNBA game will play before the NBA game, hoping that they'll get some fans? Yeah, hoping they'll get some fans in there early. Are they going to play a halftime game during an NBA game?
How much money could they save, though, Diesel, if they said, all right, we're going to do away with courts and we're going to turn it into what I said. Let's do it like the Harlem Globetrotters do, and let's go city to city. Maybe they could save money. I don't know how much it'd be, but maybe they could bring a unique twist to it. That's all I'm saying.
To put into perspective the Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark head-to-head matchup, Cole, this is really interesting. This is another chit to drop in your bucket. Mm-hmm. Michael Jordan was 19-24 all-time versus Isaiah Thomas. Sub 500 against Isaiah.
And that's why Isaiah can talk junk. We had audio from Isaiah a couple of days ago. We really did.
That's it.
Wow, that's fascinating.
That's it. Cole, when we come back, it's time for us to take a look at the other half of the Daily Wires, because we have so much going on in sports today. We had to break this thing apart. We'll get to part 2 of your Daily Wires next. Before we get to part 2 of our Daily Wires, Cole, a texter asks a very interesting question.
Okay, let's hear it.
Ethical question, they say. Would you give Caitlin Clark small unfair advantages to save the future of the WNBA?
No.
Are you asking me, do I believe referees? Like if I was a referee, would I do what Angel Reese is insinuating, saying some people got different whistles? No, you can't. No, you can't because if it's ever found out that that's what you did and that's why you did it, it would be a massive, massive PR blow for the league.
For sure.
You can't do that. You can't do that.
No, I'm with you.
Here we go, Cole. Let's get to part 2 of our Daily Wires. This is your Daily Buzz. What?
That was me doing that.
It's you?
Come out.
That's impressive, man.
You like that?
What do you guys think? Tolos, we need an instant reaction here. Do you like the sound effect or do you like the buzz?
We could probably find a better one than that. That was kind of spur of the moment, you know?
Very good. Yeah, very
good.
It
sounded more like lightsabers than it did electricity.
Do they want the mouth noises? Buzz, or do they want
that one hurt a little bit. Ow! Ow!
Sounds like a bug zapper.
Yeah.
Oh,
it shocked my finger.
If only we had one of those like really illegal zappers in here, right?
I didn't know where that was going from.
Like the little stun guns, the little small ones are about the size of this. They're so loud. You crack one of those, man, that'd be scary as hell. That's one quick way to get fired. Okay, here we go. Part 2 of the Daily Wires. Cole, the Braves will host the Detroit Tigers tonight at 7:20. Max Fried is on the mound. Pitching has been very good for the Atlanta Braves this year. Hitting is not. The Tigers are not great. You know, they're just a couple games under 500. This would be another chance. The Braves really need to take 2 out of 3 in this series to kind of keep the Phillies within reach. Obviously this is not a division game, but to stay close.
I like the Braves this week, man.
You do?
Yeah, I like them. A little momentum. Let's do it. Maybe I'm just optimistic.
Earlier today in the 2:00 game, Florida beat NC State to eliminate the Wolfpack 5-4. Was the final score of that game. Jack Caglione hit a 3-run homer in the second. Florida had scored on a sac fly just before that. 2 runners got on base. NC State made the mistake of pitching to Jack Caglione, and Jack did what Jack does and went yard with runners on base.
So dumb.
Yeah.
Just quit throwing to him.
You say load the bases for Jack Caglione. Here's another instant poll question for you, Tolos. If you're in that situation, you got runners on first and second, Jack Caglione's up to bat. Would you intentionally walk him to load the bases?
110%. I told you earlier I'd walk him with the bases.
We'd have to look and see what the average of the player who was hitting behind him was.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, but what if he hits a single to the outfield? That's 2 runs.
It's better than 4. I mean, screw it.
Let's see. Texas A&M will play Kentucky tonight at 7:00. This is not an elimination game. Texas A&M favored in this one, odds minus 135. So they're saying it's a relatively close game.
Yep. You know? Should be a good one tonight.
Yeah, you got to bet. You got to bet $135 to win 100.
That sounds right.
There you go.
Without me looking at it on my app.
Yeah. I'm not good with betting
I
odds.
I'd kind of take Kentucky. I kind of like that Kentucky underdog money tonight.
Yeah, put $100 to win 135.
Yeah,
is that how that works? See, thanks. I'm not great with betting.
You got it.
Let's see. Game 5 tonight. Boston versus Dallas. 8:30. Boston has a chance to go ahead and close this one out. Man, they gave up a butt whipping loss in Game 4 in Dallas. You said Luka finally showed up and played some defense.
Showed up, man. Fantastic game. I mean, Luka was vintage Luka. Like, there was nobody better. And what's crazy is not that Dallas won, Diesel, but the way that they won. Like, they just demolished Boston. I don't know if that'll do anything to like Boston's mental state or not, but man, tonight's game I think should be a good one.
Well, the butt whooping that Dallas delivered to Boston was much like the butt whooping that Edmonton delivered to Florida.
Yeah, no kidding. Finally
on Saturday, 8-1.
About time.
Yeah, right. Finally showed up for this series. So maybe we got a series. We'll see. I'm not paying super close attention to the Stanley Cup Finals. Kind of pop in, watch 10 minutes or so, and then pop off. Let's see. Ryan Blaney won on Sunday at the Iowa Corn 350.
Good race yesterday. I thankfully had the YouTube TV multi-screen where I could watch 4 things at once yesterday, but it was a really good race. It really was. Ryan Blaney, he was, I don't want to say dominant start to finish, but he ran really well. The Denny Hamlins of the world did not. It was an interesting track, being the first time there. It was a good race.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch any live sports yesterday. Cole, I was on the road driving. So see my dad for Father's Day.
There you go.
We got home, went straight to the pool, cracked a beer, and went straight to the pool.
I wouldn't say it was a race. You didn't miss anything special.
I was hoping. Was there anything special about play or racing at a new track?
It was almost a mile.
Sloppy race. Or was it pretty?
It was pretty. It almost raced like a smaller track. I know it's 7/10 a mile or something like that. I can't remember exactly.
Close. It's close to a mile, but it's just under. Yeah.
But it raced kind of like a smaller track. I mean, nothing special. I mean, obviously drivers have to adjust to it because they've never ran there before. But I think they will go back. I do think they'll go back. I think they liked it was packed. There were a ton of people there. The infield was packed as well. So I think they'll be back.
Cole, have you ever camped in the infield for a NASCAR race?
I have not.
Oh, dude, it's a blast.
I'd like to do it, though. I would like to do it.
Yeah, when I first started going to Charlotte Motor Speedway, Cole, you had to cross across the track. Mm-hmm. They eventually put in a tunnel. They wouldn't let you drive in and out during the race.
Yeah,
for safety reasons. I do believe like emergency vehicles could go in and out during the race, but that was it.
That makes sense.
Outside of that, regular pedestrians or people in their passenger cars could not leave until the race was over. But yeah, when I was a kid, you had to cross across the track. You couldn't go under. Last one here for us, Cole. Nick Harbour will not attend the U.S. Olympic trials this weekend. It is officially football season for Nick Harbour. We asked that question earlier of David Cloninger, and we will actually replay that interview for you coming up next. He had a great answer as to just kind of why he was making that decision and what made this year different as far as when he was waiting to make his transition over to football. And we're going to bring you that conversation here in just about 7 minutes on the Fan Upstate. We're live here from the Ingalls Market Studios. You got something to say? 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. You could always message us there. You could also text it. You can also message us on the stream on Facebook, on Twitter, or on YouTube. Just do us a favor. While you're there, looking us up on your favorite platform, give us a like, give us a follow, a subscribe, whatever that platform has. That way you can jump in tomorrow.
All right, David Cloninger of the Post and Courier. Fantastic interview. We will have it for you next. So we ask you to do what we ask all of our Tolos to do, and that's turn it on, leave it on. Get to the story. Nick Harbor, I believe every time Shane Beamer's been interviewed this offseason, he's been asked about Nick Harbor and his involvement in the U.S. Olympic trails. What are your thoughts on the news that you broke earlier about these Olympics and Nick Harbor choosing not to participate?
Well, I was surprised to hear it. I mean, I was originally just going to run a story on Friday about Nick and the rest of the Gamecocks going to the trials, but specifically with Nick, just because he is a football player of renown, and just to kind of let everybody know, hey, here's what he's up against, here's what he's got to do, here's the timeline should he make it or not make it. And, of course, I got a call back and said, hey, actually he's not going to go. I said, oh, really? And, basically he sat down with track coach Tim Hall, and they looked at the reality and the probability of what was going to happen, which is that while he did qualify for the 200 meters, his time at the NCAA championships was not so good, and the athletes he was going to be up against, it's like, maybe your best shot is probably going to be a semifinals appearance. So they talked about it, and they mutually agreed that he just wouldn't go this year.
David, is this Nick kind of pulling the ripcord and officially changing his focus back to football? And if this isn't it, when do you feel like that needs to happen?
Oh, yeah, absolutely it is for this year. I mean, he's not going to give up on track, for a potential career down the road. But, of course, in the next few years, there just won't be the Olympics to be concerned about. But he'll still do track this spring. But as for this season, he's not to say shutting it down, but just going ahead, taking a break from track, maybe work on a couple of minor things, and then start getting back into football shape.
David, obviously you cover South Carolina and multiple sports. Now that you've had a few nights to sleep on it, how do you react to the hiring of Paul Mainieri for the Gamecock baseball program?
Oh, it's a terrific hire. Absolutely terrific. And it wins every box. You won the PR angle. You got a great coach who's won before, who's won a national championship before. And any questions about Paul Mainieri, specifically his health and how he's going to operate in the NIL space, have been answered by the staff that he's hired. So it's just an all-around terrific move by Ray Tanner and his staff. And even though it's like, well, you're kind of dragging the guy out of retirement, yes, that's true, but you've already answered the questions about why he retired if he can handle them this time. I mean, he didn't step away from coaching in 2021 because he forgot how to coach or because he was bad at it. His health was a problem. That's been fixed.
David, what was your reaction, and how much fun have you had with the comment that clearly lit the upstate on fire, with Paul Mainieri saying that it's way better living here in the Midlands than it is living upstate? I can tell you that much right now. I mean, is that kind of out of character for Paul? I mean, I loved the Steve Spurrier era, all the jokes cracking and saying that there was a library fire at Auburn and 6 coloring books were lost, things like that. I mean, we need that in this rivalry, don't we?
Oh, absolutely. Just a little gamesmanship. I think every coach that has ever come in here has said some kind of little jab at Clemson. It kind of just goes with the territory, So that's what keeps the rivalry fresh. That's what keeps it fun. And, of course, he's going ahead and saying that to his players and saying that, of course, while you want to win and go to Omaha and that kind of thing, you also want to win that rivalry series. So, it's just a little bit of poking fun. I'm sure the next time any coach gets hired at Clemson, they'll return the favor. So the rivalry is always alive.
David Cloninger of the Post and Courier joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. You can follow him on Twitter at DCP&C. Again, that's at DCP&C. David, Shane Beamer got a nice addition over the weekend, a guy that I saw a good bit last year on Friday nights on the sideline in offensive lineman Shed Surratt Jr. out of Gaffney. Another piece for Shane Beamer to add to the offensive line, a big pickup in my opinion.
Oh, sure. The past couple of years, they call it the Great Wall of Carolina. They've really been getting a lot of these blue-chip offensive linemen to come in. So he's another great addition. Of course, he won't be here for another season. But, the guys at Gaffney, terrific program. They turn out great talent year after year after year. So it's just another one that South Carolina has been able to get and keep in state and come to the state schools. So always a good thing to have, but now he's just got to get here and start making a difference.
Find him on Twitter at DCPNC. David Cloninger joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. David, there's an impressive list of transfers coming into the program this year. They're coming from all over the SEC, all over the country. A lot of pedigree there, but a lot of times you look at transfers as guys that maybe couldn't cut it where they were coming from, so they're out looking for another opportunity. Who are going to be the guys who are transferring in this year that are going to be immediate impact guys, and who do you still think needs a little development?
Oh, well, I think there's going to be a whole lot. I mean, because basically, guys, you do have to recruit the portal every year now. That's just how you build your team, and whether you like it or don't like it, it's here to stay. And that's just what you have to operate in the new reality of college athletics. But to answer your question about for the Gamecocks, you look at a guy like Kyle Kennard, who was an edge rusher. Georgia Tech did very well. South Carolina needs edge rushing help, and they ended up getting him. You have Brady Hunt, a tight end who actually didn't play last year due to injury, but played very well before that up at Ball State. And then you got several other guys. I mean, one of the late additions to the class, his name's escaping me right now, but he's a receiver out of Florida State, big, tall, strong, and South Carolina needed some receivers, specifically tall, stretch the field types, just so they weren't going to be populated with guys who could only run an 8 to 10 yard go route or 8 to 10 yard cross. So they had their needs. They went ahead and looked at them and got them. And, it's just part of the new game where you have to start getting transfers, and they got a bunch of guys who they know will be able to compete right away. So now you just got to go out there and prove it.
David, I want to go back to the diamond for a quick second. In your opinion, I don't know how much conversation you had with Ray Tanner or what you heard during the hiring process, but one question that Diesel and I got asked a good bit during the last few weeks was, how many no's did Ray Tanner get, or was a guy like Paul Maneri already in Ray Tanner's mind where, yeah, he might have done a few courtesy interviews, but he went straight to Paul and just made it a done deal? Do you know?
Well, I don't believe that Paul Maneri was on the first initial list as a candidate. Now, he and Paul Maneri are friends. They go back years. They were great competitors against each other. And I'm sure he just called him out to say, hey, can I bounce a few candidates off of you? What do you think? And then it turned into him being a candidate. At least from what I know and what I reported, there were a couple of guys in Chris Pollard up at Duke, Dan McDonnell at Louisville, who said, kind of thanks, but no thanks. Cliff Godwin at East Carolina was also on that list because as they kind of knew going in, you can approach him, but it's going to take a whole lot to get him out of East Carolina. But on the flip side, Tom Walter from Wake Forest really wanted the job. He wanted to come here, but when they started looking at it and said, well, I don't know. I mean, there's maybe this Maneri thing comes through. We've got Monty Lee kind of in a standby role. Let's kind of look at that first. So they were able to tell Tom Walter, hey, thanks, but no thanks. So just from those, I know that's I guess 3 guys said they weren't really interested, and USC told one guy that they weren't really interested. And maybe that could have gone to Dan McDonnell a bit too. But the main thing is that they got Paul Maneri kind of late in the process, and it ended up working out.
David Cloninger joins us here on the Fan Upstate. David, Shane Beamer has had his opportunities now to reshuffle the deck chairs as far as his coordinators and his staff goes. He's been given that leeway now. Is in your mind, is Shane Beamer in game mode where maybe 1 or 2 more 5-win seasons and it'll force Ray Tanner to start making that tough decision? I don't think a whole lot of fans have a ton of faith in Ray Tanner to make a groundbreaking football hire.
Well, those fans do have a lot to stand on, considering his first football hire didn't turn out so well. But the fact is, this year, right now, fellas, I can tell you with full authority that Shane Beamer is not on the hot seat going into this year. Last year was a disappointment. He'd be the first to tell you that. But he overachieved so much in his first 2 seasons, really said, hey, it's okay. He didn't have to build, maybe as slowly as we thought. So he got up there, 7 wins the first season, 8 wins the second. And last year was a step back. But going into this year, it's just a thing of hey, just go out and do what you can do, because last year you got to consider an aberration. You stubbed your toe. You get back to a winning season this year, and then you start building for the future. What he can't do is have another 5-7 or worse, because then that makes year 5 a hot seat season. But right now in year 4, it's hey, this is a bad year, so go out there and make it better.
David, we talked about this last week, but I want to hear your thoughts on Coastal Carolina's hire of Chance Miller. What role did he play in assisting Ray Tanner with hires, or was his role more related to just development?
Chance did a little bit of everything in his 10 years here, but since he became associate AD, he was basically Ray Tanner's right-hand man. Coastal made a terrific hire because Chance was chomping at the bit to go and run his own program, show what he could do, and he is going to be a tremendous asset to Coastal Carolina. He did help with a lot of hires, specifically with Shane Beamer and Lamont Paris, the men's basketball coach. And he did a little bit of everything that needed to be done. The soccer game between Manchester U and Liverpool that's coming to Williams-Brice on August 3rd, that's all Chance Miller. He was the guy that saw that could happen and said, you got this big empty football stadium that's only being used 7 times a year. Let's start getting that out there. Let's get more money into the department. And that's how that soccer game worked out. So Chance was an invaluable tool of this athletic department for the past decade, and he's going to be very much missed. And, Coastal got a great one.
David Cloninger of the Post and Courier joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. We're kind of in that last we're starting that deep breath before football really begins, before you kind of put those blinders on and you got to laser focus in on one sport. What's David Cloninger's summer looking like? Are you a get out and travel kind of guy, or do they keep you locked in a room somewhere typing away and hammering away at a keyboard?
Well, I don't like taking much vacation, guys. That's just kind of the way I'm wired. But after doing a coaching search last week, there's definitely some time to decompress. I mean, originally I was going to take today off and just kind of get my arms around the honey-do list and kind of set up how my next few weeks are going to go. And then I get a phone call, hey, Nick Harbor's not going to the Olympics after all. Okay, well, let's just go ahead and get that in. So it's day to day, but hopefully I'll get a week or two before football practice starts. And then, of course, in the middle of July, we got SEC Media Days in Dallas, and I'll handle that. And then, August 2nd will be the first day of practice.
Can I give you a recommendation, David? I know you and I don't know each other well yet. This is your first time on Wire to Wire, and definitely not your last. But if I give you a good barbecue recommendation while you're in Dallas, will you hit me up on it?
I'll try, but you got to understand I'm born and raised in South Carolina, and I got nothing against barbecue in Texas, but you say barbecue in Texas and they bring you beef. Barbecue is pork. So
fair point.
I've been to Dallas quite a few times, and I know some good places to hit, but yes, feel free.
Very good point, Dave. Very good point.
And that is David Cloninger, sports writer for the Post and Courier. Look him up on Twitter at DCPNC. Love somebody we can go round table and kind of hit every aspect of a school's athletics. We appreciate your time, David.
Thanks, man.
Not a problem, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Fantastic stuff there, man.
Yes, it absolutely is. And, that's interesting with Nick Harbor kind of saying, all right, I'm going to kind of hold on and stick with this track as long as I can during the trials. And now, South Carolina fans, that's got to make you feel good to know that, football fans at least, is going to make you feel good that, he said, look, I'm not going to push for this thing any farther. I'm going to try to, again, the terms that I put in it before, kind of pull that ripcord and change my focus back to football. It's something that only comes around every 4 years. You take it in stride. Sometimes it hits you as a freshman. Sometimes it hits you as a senior. And, you kind of answer that call when it comes to you.
That's one of the things that I thought was interesting about his answer when we asked him about the Olympic trials. He said, for this year, you asked him about, can football fans be at rest, in terms of Gamecock fans? He said, for this year, he's not going to stop pursuing track. So that'll be interesting to follow, obviously, in the future. But, man, for me, Diesel, I don't know what stood out for you, but for me, it was the question about the baseball hire. And you know what, man? I trust David. David's been doing this a long, long time. And when he said that Ray Tanner called Paul to bounce some ideas, some names off of them, and get a feel for who Paul might think would be a good fit, that conversation ended up turning into, well, hey, how about you come coach? Can you imagine being a fly on the wall in that conversation?
You get called to consult, and then you end up with the job.
I don't know. I mean, that's fascinating.
Coach, who's the best man for the job? I am.
That was fascinating, man. I love that. And obviously, we talked about it for a week and a half leading up on on this very show, Diesel, leading up to the hire, we talked about Godwin. We talked about possible candidates, Wake Forest. I did think that was very interesting that South Carolina said no thanks, to him at Wake Forest. But man, they evidently got 3 no's off the top of the bat. And maybe Ray Tanner called Paul and said, "Look, what about these 3 guys?" And again, I don't know exactly how it happened, but Diesel, he may have called them. Paul might have said, "Yeah, those 3 are fantastic. Best of luck to you," and getting them to say yes. But is it not surprising to you, Diesel, that a coach from East Carolina won't come coach in the SEC for South Carolina?
Yeah, that's a very big question. I mean, do you think it has anything to do with recent history under Holbrook and then Kingston, and saying in his mind, thinking, "Oof, that is a program in decline"? It's Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Coming to a close here in a couple minutes on episode number 60 of the show. Fantastic show for you today so far. I do think so.
Quick programming note, by the way, for those that do not know, I don't think we mentioned it last week. I know it's going to be sad when I say this, and you're going to miss us, but we will not be on air this Wednesday.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's right. We will be it's a Odyssey company holiday, Juneteenth. Yeah. So we will be off on Wednesday. Hate to break it to you like that.
We will, Cole, but are there going to be any college baseball games? We're going to spend any? Yes, there will be 2 games on Wednesday.
Oh, man.
Tennessee versus TBD at this moment in the 2:00 game. Then, of course, we don't know who's going to be playing in the 7:00 game on Wednesday evening. But we'll have sports to watch. We'll have sports to talk about. Hey, you should follow Cole at the Cole Bryson on Twitter. Follow me at Diesel on Radio. And we're going to be probably tweeting a little bit during those games.
Heck yeah, we will. Yeah. We'll do it.
Speaking of college baseball, Cole, going back to something we talked about earlier in the show, fantastic start to the to Omaha, to the College World Series finals here. Just an epic first couple of games. 3 walk-offs in the first 3 games of the weekend. You can't get any better than that, man. Coming down to the wire. Friday, game 1, North Carolina 3, Virginia 2. UNC hit a walk-off winner in that one. Game 2 on Friday, that was the big contentious game. Florida State, Tennessee. Florida State had a 2-run lead going into the 9th inning, Cole, and a very questionable call. Very questionable call very likely cost the Florida State Seminoles that game, put them into the losers bracket. Now, obviously, they took care of Virginia yesterday and were able to advance in the series, but now they are obviously put into a position, Cole, where they're in the losers bracket. And I'm going to tell you, they got hosed.
They did.
They got absolutely hosed. Somewhere Melissa Level, who is one of the nicest, sweetest people you're ever going to meet, she's cussing somewhere, saying, what the hell's going on? Why does the NCAA and its referees have it out for my Florida State Seminoles? Cole, if you guys haven't seen that, just search for it on Twitter, search for it on YouTube. You're going to find it. Trust me. Search Blake Burke, Tennessee check swing.
And
and you will find it.
Here's the head baseball coach, Link Jarrett Diesel, post-game video credit by ESPN after that check swing that you're talking about.
The umpiring groups for the review of a check swing, I would like to be able to challenge that. I told him, this started back in September, I said, every camera in the stadium has a view of that. Now, you have some random plays that come up that are not captured. Those are captured. And it's a very, very difficult call. I think in umpiring, it is the hardest of calls to make. Even the guy that's on the open side that has to make that, it's not an easy call. Like, you could argue that specific call. And because of the advancement in technology, I think that's something that should be put in. I think it should be in the big leagues. I think it should be in college. We have the technology. Everything's on home plate, so you're going to get some good looks at it. And now you know why I have fought for that. And
did you hear? Did he listen to our show in the first segment? Maybe he did.
He's not wrong. I mean, there's a ton of cameras on home plate, and from where the third base umpire is, he doesn't have the right angle.
Yeah,
he doesn't have the right angle to see it. I mean, you just can't. I mean, there's rules about where the barrel of the bat is compared to the handle, the hands being out in front of the barrel, etc.
You have to have replay.
You have to be able to review something like that. I can't stand the thought, Cole, of non-reviewable plays. You see them in college football all the time. Plays that can't be. Why not? Why can't they be reviewed? Because somebody at some point has decided, we can't review those plays. Well, why not? Again, like, this is one of those things where it puts Florida State into the losers bracket and makes their path to a championship more difficult because your umpire blew a call. It is time to, at very minimum, allow technology to assist umpires. It doesn't have to take over. It doesn't have to be the thing like, there could be a little indicator light mounted somewhere on the scorer's booth that tells them, did they go around? Did they not go around? I mean, they can look at these things almost instantaneously.
How about some kind of, and again, this may sound complicated, but it shouldn't be. How about some sort, Diesel, of a button that goes in the official on third base's pocket, like in his back pocket, a butt buzzer. How about that? A butt buzzer. And whenever that bat crosses, I mean, I guess it would, I don't know, you'd have to work through it. Maybe there would be a lot of kinks to it, but whenever that bat crosses a certain spot on home plate, it buzzes. The butt buzzer buzzes. I think college baseball, I think baseball in general needs a butt buzzer so that we don't have these things happen again. I don't know what kind of technology it'll have to be, Diesel, though, but it needs to be something that alerts the umpires that when that bat crosses, it's a strike.
Yeah, Florida State coach is not wrong there. They need to have the ability at the very minimum to go back and review that play. And like I said before, I don't want technology to take over the game. I don't want to eliminate umpires. I want it to be there as an aid, right? Not as we're not really paying attention, so let's go to the monitor all the time. All these sports are doing, in my opinion, a terrible job at using technology. They allow the technology to slow the games down to the point where everything has to be reviewed down the stretch of a basketball game.
Yep.
And it ruins the flow of the game. It's terrible for TV, right? Because it slows down the broadcast. And then it pushes whatever game is coming on after them to not be able to air on time. It's time for them to figure out how to implement this technology in creative ways to handle situations like this better than what we're doing right now, because that call right there allowed Tennessee to continue on a 2-out rally.
Yeah.
And eventually, score 4 runs in the bottom of the 9th there and walk it off to win the game. That was game over right there. 2 outs. That was strike 3, and they messed up the call.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm shocked that the Florida State coach who you just heard audio from, I'm shocked. I mean, big shocked that he wasn't more upset about it than what he was.
Eric Bakich would have been out there throwing bases.
Oh, Eric Bakich would have been army crawling to the third baseman. He would have already tore the scoreboard down.
He would have picked up the rosin bag, bit it like a grenade, and thrown it on home plate.
He would have. And he should have. The Florida State coach should have.
Yeah.
I watched it happen. I'm surprised a bigger deal wasn't made of that. If I'm the head coach there, I'm probably getting tossed. I know that's not the right thing to do, Diesel, in that scenario, but I'm probably getting tossed if I'm
Florida State. And when you compare that to a swing that was called a full swing in game 2 for Tennessee against North Carolina, I mean, it's just that one wasn't even close to being a full swing, not even close to going around, yet that was called a strike. Calls are missed throughout the game, right? People point back to a ball that should have a pitch that should have been a ball for Florida against the Florida State batter that was called a strike or vice versa. And they look at something like that and say, well, that kept something alive. Sure. But over the course of a game, Cole, especially when you come down the wire, you got to get these things right. And you got to figure out a way to make these calls accurately and quickly. Tennessee goes on to win that game 12-11. And well, Florida State is put in a bad spot. Tennessee went on to handle North Carolina in their second game of Omaha.
You know something? Tennessee, like we talk about this a lot in sports, with NBA championships or let's say college football champion, Super Bowl champion, whatever it may be. I think, Diesel, a lot of times we underestimate and undervalue that a team that's going to win it all, like if you talk to a coach, they'll tell you the same thing. We undervalue everything that it takes in order to win a championship. So let's, for example, let's say Tennessee goes on to win it this year. Well, it's going to take good coaching. They've got that. It's going to take really good pitching. They've got that. They got to have bats. They've got that. But every coach will tell you, in order to win a championship, at some point in the run, Diesel, I've seen it at the high school football level. I've been covering high school football for 12 years. I've seen it happen at the high school level, the college level. At some point, all championship teams have to have a little bit of luck.
Yeah,
they do.
You got to have the 50-50 calls, the subjective calls.
Yep. The ball has to bounce your way.
It has to bounce your way, and the ref kind of has to go your way every now and again. It has to happen. Let's see here. We had 3 walk-offs in the first 4 games. All 4 of the first 4 games, Cole, were 1-run ball games. I mean, it's just absolutely phenomenal what Omaha represents and the way these teams respond and play tight baseball. It was fantastic. What I did find really interesting is that in the head-to-head matchups, we thought this whole thing with 4 ACC and 4 SEC teams was going to go, pretty 50-50 on this. The SEC is dominating the ACC, punking them, man, making them look bad. And I remember saying last week that I thought any 4 of the SEC teams could go on to win this thing because Florida, being the quote-unquote weakest team of the SEC that's there, they're playing hot baseball right now, so it didn't really matter that Florida eked into postseason play. It didn't really matter, that they had a bad season. They're just playing good baseball at the right time, and Jack Caglione is hitting bombs.
Well, he's the best player on the planet right now. Listen, the SEC is a deeper conference. It's the same thing that we've said in college basketball the few years. The SEC is slowly becoming a deeper conference than the ACC. I'm not saying that the SEC is a better basketball conference year in and year out. All I'm telling you is the money, the resources, the facilities they have, they're able to add quality depth for every team at every sport. You've seen it in football for many, many years. You've seen it in basketball. Now you see it in baseball. And a few weeks ago when Clemson fans were so mad at me on Facebook, on our Facebook page, at the Fan Upstate, I said, look, the SEC is a deeper conference. And as you said, Diesel, it's evident of that right now. Tonight's game will not show us any ACC versus SEC because it's 2 SEC schools. But tomorrow, the winner of tomorrow you'll have Florida State, North Carolina, so another ACC matchup. But I've said all along, we asked the question, Friday, who would win it, the ACC or the SEC? I just felt like Tennessee, number 1, is the better team, and the SEC is a little bit deeper of a conference.
Madcraft has a question here. Would it fix the problem if they made it a reviewable call? Yes.
Duh.
Yes, that would fix the problem. And look, if you want to make check swings a reviewable call on strike 3 only or ball 4, I'm fine with that. Like I don't necessarily need check swings on all calls, but at the very minimum, the very minimum on strike 3 or ball 4,
correct,
they should be able to review that call. I mean, by not reviewing it, it leaves situations like that open to human error, and I'm just not into it.
I don't know. As I think about that in my head, I don't think coaches would be allowed to have that because then you have the question of how many challenges do they get? I think it would have to be some sort of situation where the umpires, again, using discretion, realize, look, I think it would have to be done off-site. I think it would have to be done in the box from the truck or whatever it is. The umpires, they want to go home. They don't want to challenge every call. I get it. But somebody somewhere has to say, look, that's got to be challenged. If it's this close, like you said, Diesel, if it's a strike 3 or a ball 4, we've got to take a look at it.
Well, it also eliminates the possibility of situations not dissimilar from what we saw in the Super Regional with Clemson and Florida. The ability to take it out of the umpire's hands and not make this the ump show, right? To have the ability to say, all right, we've got a neutral observer in the booth or something like that, a Big Ten official, head of officiating, whatever you want to, however you want to do that. Just don't allow the umpires to take over a game the way that they sometimes do. And those situations are rare, but it does sometimes happen. But Cole, I'm here to tell you that pool play, the way college baseball does their postseason, is right up there in my mind with NCAA March Madness. I think it's an absolutely incredible format for postseason play, and it'll never happen because they would be eliminating games, and that's content and that's hours to fill for the networks. But I really believe that Major League Baseball should adopt some form of a pool play structure instead of the wild card format. I think it's just a better way to handle things. I don't know if that would make Major League Baseball come together at a centralized location for a round like that. I don't think. I mean, these guys are flying. These guys are flying private. They can charter. So, I mean, what difference does it make if they can hop on a jet and play in Cleveland today, but be playing in California tomorrow? Why not? Right? Why not introduce pool play in Major League Baseball? I think it's great.
I think it has to be at the same location. Like I know that what's it called? The college baseball or World Baseball Classic.
Yeah. They
did pool play. It was at one location. So it's doable. Omaha's doable because it's at one location. Listen, I'm not opposed to it. It's fascinating.
Maybe it should be at a rotating location year in and year. It's like Omaha is great because they can be the home of the
Yeah, for
College
sure.
Baseball World Series.
Yeah.
But maybe that means that, this year it's in Tampa, next year it's in Texas, the year after that it's in California. Teams in the cities in the South would certainly get that consideration, because by October it's cold up north a lot.
I've always been a fan of the bracket. I just don't know that I'm I'm not opposed to the pool play. I am a bracket guy. Like, I do love a bracket format for playoffs, whether it be March Madness or MLB. I love it for the NBA. I love 7 game. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I love 7-game series. I really do. I like being able to go, Dallas, Boston. It doesn't always go 7, but I like being able to see who truly is the better team in a bracket style format, whether it be 5 games or 7 games. You have to truly be the better team in order to advance.
Yeah, we see it so often, though, Cole, with teams who win their division, who don't have to play, getting bounced early. The answer, where they're going to go with this eventually, Cole, will be they're going to expand the Major League Baseball playoffs. And nobody really wants that, but that is
They did that already in 2021.
Yeah, that is the only solution to a problem that they created, right?
Yeah.
They created a situation where division winners are sitting at home. They're practicing, they're playing their AAA ball clubs, and that's fine, but they're not winning, right? They're not advancing. The better teams are getting bounced. And you could say, well, if they were really the better team, wouldn't they advance? Well, if you're taking meaningful baseball off of their plates and making them play non-meaningful ball for a couple of days or a week or whatever it was to get back into the series and playing, then because baseball is such a game of rhythm.
Yeah.
And if you take a team out of its rhythm, then you really kind of put them at a disadvantage. So the best teams in Major League Baseball are at a disadvantage with the current format. And I say, if you do pool play like this, a double elimination tournament, it makes them play meaningful ball.
Madcraft on the stream says each pool has its own location, both AL and NL, and it rotates MLB stadiums every year. The home teams wouldn't like it, because they'd want.
Well, the home teams would love it because they would get the extra revenue from tickets sold.
Well, they wouldn't get as many home games, would they?
Oh, but you're right. The teams who are not playing, yeah. You could say, like, what right now you could say in the National League, it would be Philadelphia. Just going off of current standings. You could say, all right, well, you got home field advantage because you're leading the division, or they could rotate it the way they do bowl games. I don't know. It's tough to say.
Game 5, Boston, Dallas, 2 big markets. However, the NBA Finals has not been as entertaining as we hoped for. Too many lopsided games. Boston has a chance to close it out tonight. We'll give our predictions next. All right, game 5 of the NBA Finals is tonight. It's Boston-Dallas. Dallas has the momentum after a big win on Friday night. However, Boston, Diesel, is a 6.5-point favorite at home, as they should be. Can you somehow, some way, and the audience, I'll let the audience play this game as well, can you somehow convince me that Dallas tonight can pull this off, can make this a series again? Or are you going to give me some upsetting news?
I'm going to give you some upsetting news,
Thanks.
Cole,
I
because
appreciate
the
that.
Boston Celtics have the best home record in basketball. Eastern Conference, Cole, at home, they are by far the best team playing on their home court, 37-4
Kind of dominating
this season. Yeah, pretty good.
There's a lot of rivalries out there. This is more of a domination. And that's the fact.
That's domination, Dallas.
Compare that to where the Mavericks are on the road. They're 25-16. Yeah, I mean, they were 25-16 at home this year as well. So talk about balance, right? Playing well at home and on the road for the Mavs. It would take just a Herculean effort on behalf of Luka and Kyrie to keep this thing a series, keep the series alive. Now, I think Boston probably closes this one out. I think that, game 4 was an aberration for them. They got blown out. They're not going to like that. If it had been a closer game, like a 10-point or less game 4 in Dallas, I would say that, the Mavs would be, the Celtics would be like, oh, okay, we're just this close, not as much urgency. But when you get embarrassed like that, I think the Celtics are going to come out and make this one ugly.
On NBA Countdown right now, they are reporting that it looks as if Kristaps Porzingis is available to return tonight. So that'd be big for Boston if that happens.
You're telling me is Daniel LaRusso is going to fight?
Yeah, pretty much. So here's the question I ask. If I hear you, and by the way, not to play spoiler, but I think Boston wins tonight too, okay? As much as I want Dallas to win, I'm pulling for Dallas. I want the series to extend. Boston's going to win tonight. However, I do ask the question. Diesel, it happened in 2021. Boston had a 2-1 lead over Golden State. Golden State they came back and they won the series, won the NBA Finals. If Dallas were to win tonight, I know these guys are adults, but they're still young adults, right? They still don't nobody's a robot. Nobody's invincible in the mind. If this thing goes from 3-0 to 3-2, mentality-wise, you can't tell me that doesn't affect Boston and almost put a sense of, holy crap, guys, what have we done?
Yeah, it's hard to beat anybody, 4 times in a row.
It is.
That's why it's never been done before, right?
Yeah,
it's never been done in the NBA Finals. I don't know that this Dallas Mavericks team has the makeup to do it, right? I mean, even if Kristaps doesn't play tonight, let's say they make him available and he plays limited minutes in the first half and he injures himself or re-aggravates that injury and he's out for the rest of the game, he would definitely play in game 6 and game 7. Even if he didn't play in 6, he would absolutely play in game 7, take another 4 or 5 days off and do what he can to get himself ready, right?
For sure.
There's no way he wouldn't.
No, I don't think you would either. I just do think man, oh man, if they, kind of like we said with Florida, if you let them in, Chris Phillips, you said it earlier in the show. If you let them in, you got to deal with them. If you do give Dallas this win tonight, and then it goes back to Dallas, Diesel, for game 6, and all they have to do is win 1 to force a game 7 at home, I'm not saying they win 4 in a row, but I'm just saying, if they win tonight, if they pull it off tonight, I think it's going 7 games. And then all bets are off, right?
Yeah.
LeBron James and the Cavaliers were the first team to ever come back down 3-1. That almost never happened. We've talked about it before, though. At some point, Diesel, as good as these athletes are, I do think at some point in relevant times, I'm not saying it's going to happen today or 10 years from now, but I do think at some point it's going to happen and a team is going to come back down 3-0.
I mean, you don't get to the playoffs if you're a bad basketball team. You don't make your way all the way to the NBA finals if you're a bad basketball team. But I'd be willing to bet, Cole, that most of these teams don't go on 4-game winning streaks very often during the regular season. I mean, obviously they're not playing the same team 7 times in a row in the regular season, but it's never happened before because it's extremely difficult. And most of the time it's the better team. It's the Boston Celtics in this particular series. It's the better team that gets out early and just puts their boot on the neck of the other team. And again, I question, can we see Kyrie be, 30-point a night Kyrie 4 games in a row? That's what he has to be.
I do think Boston wins tonight. Right now, the spread is at 6.5. And unfortunately, I think they cover. I think they win by 9 tonight. So I think you and I are both agreeing there, Diesel, that
wasn't that the spread in game 1? And I think Rob and I both I misquoted you. I misquoted you.
No, it was like 6.5. Yeah,
it was 6.5 in game 1.
I think it was.
I think both of us thought that Boston would win that game, but Dallas would cover.
Yep.
And I misquoted and said that you had said the same thing when you did not. I think we're going to be in a similar situation this time around. I think Boston wins this one going away.
Quick programming note for tomorrow. We will have the new USC Upstate baseball coach, Kane Sweeney, on the program tomorrow. Mike McGuire, Diesel, we talked about it last week, hired by Winthrop. I think that's a fantastic question, not for Kane Sweeney, but for you and I to talk about is how much of a jump is that from Upstate to Winthrop? Obviously, as you pointed out last week, it's probably a pay raise, right? You don't go to Winthrop to Rock Hill, for a pay decrease. But those are both, good baseball programs. So I'm just curious, if Winthrop's a more sought after job than we think it is in terms of baseball.
I have to go back and look and see what is Winthrop's history. Winthrop plays in what conference?
Big South, right?
Big South. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen a Big South team win the national championship.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe it's just a slight upgrade in competition compared to the competition for USC Upstate. But I mean, I would think a coach that had the pedigree and the history of Mike McGuire would be making a jump to Conference USA type school, Sunbelt type school.
And maybe he does eventually, Maybe this is a short stint. Who knows? Nonetheless, we'll be joined by the new Upstate baseball coach, Kane Sweeney. What a name. Tomorrow. And you don't want to miss that, 4:20 right here on Wire to Wire.